do you believe that there is a possibility that we may be trying to provoke Russia into a major military conflict? I understand this sounds like something you'd hear from fucking conspiracy theorists or people who are out of their damn mind. But it's a serious question. And I'm going to be asking this based on what is actually taking place. You have to keep in mind, since the Ukrainian invasion or Russia invaded the Ukrainian, since that has taken place, several world leaders of NATO countries have been in Kyiv walking the streets with President Zelensky. How is this a provocation, some might ask? Well, imagine during the Iraq War, while we were actively bombing Baghdad, if Vladimir Putin was walking the streets of Ukraine with Saddam Hussein. How might that have put us in a special predicament because you do not want to injure Vladimir Putin while you're bombing that country? So it would be as if Vladimir Putin was trying to put us in a predicament to potentially injure him so that his nation could go to war with us. And that's the question we're asking. Do you believe that it's possible that America and the West and its NATO nations might actually be trying to provoke Russia into a major military conflict? Looks like Hodges said Saddam is king. I don't know where that goes. Yes, I believe the Dems are stupid enough to do this. Long wars are a lot of money for them. Jeffrey Frost, I agree with your comment. The long wars are a lot of money. But when you look at the fact that we just got out of a 20-year war that was started by the Bush administration, I disagree with the notion that this is something that the Democrats would do as if the Russians would be innocent of it. Okay, but I'm asking that question, though. I don't think we are provoking, but I do believe the United States is helping Ukraine hide something. Well, shout out to Hunter Biden. Trump is a criminal, says Claudia Davis. God, you guys are starting quick. You ain't playing no thoughts. Any thoughts on how Russia would handle Russia in Ukraine? Well, here's the thing. I don't believe that Ronald Reagan would do, and that is send Nancy Pelosi over there to walk the streets of Kyiv while they're being actively attacked. That's why I'm asking about the provocation question. While Russia is attacking this country, and Macron of France, Boris Johnson of the UK, these are world leaders walking the streets of Kyiv in active war zone, putting themselves in harm's way. How could that not be provoking Russia? If Russia was to, if one of their aircraft or one of their tanks or something was to shell the area where Nancy Pelosi is, and I understand this fucking idea, some of you guys would probably cheer that shit on, but not to go into that. But if one of these world leaders were to be injured, God forbid, lose their lives, would that not potentially put that country at odds with Russia? And that's not Russia's fault. They're fighting the Ukraine, and here we are sitting Nancy Pelosi, Macron of France, I believe Trudeau and a few others, maybe Trudeau. I don't know for sure if Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, has been there, but I know Macron has. They actually rejected the current president of Germany from coming over there. He wanted to go over there, but they're deliberately putting themselves in harm's way. And if the Russians actually bomb that area and kill one of these world leaders by mistake, then NATO is going to jump up and suggest, well, you killed, Nancy Pelosi, or you killed Macron of France, and boom, now we got a major conflict. But that's not Russia's fault. You're putting people of power into a war zone. You look like George Benson said. I don't remember what that guy looked like. The only answer is a third Workers' Party. PGH, Dan, I don't know if that would stop this, because this is not just something happening only with the United States. This is something happening around the world. Agree that they would, says Farm Boy. Yeah. Now, Def, what does that says? Def, sure, I cannot pronounce that, but Def Sharudim, are you a Russian sympathizer? No. Good question. Absolutely not. That question makes a lot of sense based on what the topic I'm covering right now. I believe strongly that the Russians are war criminals in this. I do not support what Russia's doing at all. However, when you put American dignitaries like Nancy Pelosi, or the president of France, or the prime minister of the UK on the ground in the middle of an active war zone, That part right there is not Russia's fault. Russia can easily say we had no beef with Russia, or we had no beef with the UK, we had no beef with France, we had no beef with the United States. They're sending their highest members of their political elite into a war zone. You would have to say that that's irresponsible. We're not trying to hit these people, but if you're going to put someone like that in harm's way, knowing that something could happen, you're sending them into an active war zone. But no, I'm not a Russian sympathizer. Russia ain't doing nothing in Ukraine. He's blowing up the biolabs. Preston Gower, if you believe that all of that damage in the Ukraine is strictly biolabs, you think they have that many labs all over the country like that? If they had that many labs in the Ukraine all over the country like that, they would be such a force that I don't think nobody would fuck with them. Period. I don't think that would be worse than atomic weapons if they had that many biolabs. How was COVID made? King Scoville, I don't know. Why don't you head over to Wuhan and ask a few questions? Prime example of a product of the Communist News Network, CNN. Elaborate on that, Patriot. What does I say, Patriot John? Well, let me come across and say this. As I say in every broadcast, let me change my reverse my video. As I say in every broadcast, this is definitely a no snowflake zone, so you're not going to say shit I'm going to run from. I do understand the material that I'm presenting today could make me come across like my man just asked as a Russian sympathizer. I assure you, I am not on the side of Russia in this. I'm just simply saying when you're putting folks in harm's way, you cannot hold Russia responsible for those people. They have no business being in an active war zone. That's not diplomatically how you bring an end to a war by having having someone like Nancy Pelosi at 80 years old go walking down the streets of fucking Kiev. That's irresponsible. I think Russia is doing the right thing to find the biolabs. Jeffrey Frost, no, not like that. Not like that. Listen, there are plenty of Russians or folks who sympathize with Russia living in the country of Ukraine. Whatever happened to spying, whatever happened to doing intel, there's a lot more neater, for lack of a better terms, there's far more neater ways to find where those labs are and destroy them. Take, for instance, Israel. Israel has destroyed nuclear plants in the making in places like Syria and Iran through cyber terrorism or strategic bombing. They didn't just go take over the whole fucking country. There are ways to stop labs or whatever you want to say or anything like that. There are ways to do that other than a full-blown invasion, which is what Russia is doing. I think the Ukraine has some blame too. I don't think we are getting the full story. Jaywalker75, that comment is what I refer to as a home run. Anytime you have a major conflict like what's going on now, you never get the whole story. That comment is spot on. You never get the whole story. In fact, you probably will not get the whole story 20 years, 30 years when they start, declassifying things. I mean, like with Iraq, for instance, like in Iraq, how many mistakes did we make? How many things did we do over in that country that probably would be considered a war crime? Accidentally bombing schools, bombing weddings, bombing soccer games. You won't know about that stuff probably for 20, 30 years. So I do agree with your comment, good comment, which the USA invested in. King's Cove, you're saying the United States invested in labs in Wuhan. Okay, I never heard of that. Those are Ukraine's own military attacking their own people. Preston Gower, there's absolutely no way you're going to get me, at least not your humble correspondent sitting before you. You'll never get me to believe that. And for the simple fact that there are too many other nations joining in on this. Too many nations would, satellite intel. I mean, a lot of that shit is on video. You see the guys walking down the street. You see Russia actually admitting that they've lost tens of thousands of soldiers since this began. So the notion that it's just simply Ukraine on Ukraine conflict makes absolutely no sense. Even Vladimir Putin is disputing that. Not hard to understand. NATO wants Ukraine on board, but Russia says no, and that came from Radar Product. I agree with that. I certainly agree that NATO would welcome as many countries in that region as they could get. It puts them right on the doorstep of Russia. And let me say this, because somebody asked me earlier, was I a Russian sympathizer? While I'm going to say without a shadow of a doubt, I do not sympathize with Russia. I think Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. I understand to some degree the nation of Russia not wanting members of NATO in bordering territories. No different than JFK did not want Cuba having missiles from the Soviet Union. You don't want an enemy or an adversary literally within walking distance of you. If the Ukraine joins NATO, that opens up the Ukrainians for U.S. military bases. There's no way in the world that the Russians would want the United States to have military access to Ukraine that close to them. And if you don't understand that, just imagine it in reverse. By the way, can I get you guys to tap the screen? It is a Sunday. This is a little bit off-culture broadcast, but if you could, tap the screens, get my likes up. Bring me some MAGA in here. You know who the hell I like talking to. F Ukraine, Cal Bounty Hunter. Cal Bounty Hunter says F the Ukraine. Okay, so tell us how you really feel. Don 1964, what's up, Don? Don, you are the man. Always good to see Don on the broadcast. And maternity wards in hospitals. Exactly. Don is pointing out all of the locations and places like that are being destroyed that have nothing to do with biolabs. But if you really want to believe that Ukraine is evil, you're not going to believe anything otherwise. No matter what comes out, you're just not going to believe it. So there's nothing else we can say about that. Well, we're going to start it out pretty early. We're going to start it out. Good afternoon, Don. Yes, Russia tried to start a coup in Montenegro. I can't pronounce the name. You were something American 55, but you're on live. Go ahead. What's on your mind today?
Well, it's your average American.
Perfect.
55.
Okay, perfect.
But I used to be privileged whitey 55.
Oh, okay. We've talked.
I just wanted to stop in and say hi, brother. How you doing?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's a pleasure having you on this Sunday. Why would you drop privileged whitey? Why would you drop such a unique, fucking forgettable name?
Because a lot of people were kicking me out of their lives, man.
Okay,
They wouldn't
yeah.
let me stay. And I was like, I'm not meaning anything by it.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, it's a dig on me, not on you. So,
Well,
but yeah, they
well,
were
as
kicking me out.
you know, in a no snowflake forum like we have here, you're always welcome here. It doesn't matter what your damn name is.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Well, I didn't want anything, brother. I just saw you. I wanted to sneak in, say hi, see how you was doing, and have a blessed Sunday, man.
Absolutely. Come on through anytime. You have a good one.
All right, buddy.
All
See
right.
ya.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. Let me see. Pack nations to humiliate. Somebody said in the comment. Yes, Trump will be in jail in 2024, says whatever 967. That is what I refer to as a fairy tale. Trump is never going to spend a day in jail. In fact, he will, just like Hillary Clinton, he will live a full life, die a wealthy man, lie in state, and most Americans will say positive things about Trump. A lot of the hatred will probably be forgiven, upon his passing. So no, he's not going to jail. Miss Petra, Russia is and always has been an enemy of the United States. They want to control the world. Well, Miss Petra, I do agree that for quite a while we have been on the opposite sides of Russia. But in regards to them wanting to control the world, some might say that we do too. I mean, even a lot of Americans refer to us as the world's police, so can't blame somebody else for wanting to do something that we are profiting and living quite well doing. It's just normal. It's just a normal proxy war, says Sour Sap 421. I kind of want to agree with you on that. Generally, whoever America is having issues with, Russia's on their side, and vice versa. Whoever Russia is having issues with, America's generally helping and funding them. What to me seems to be the difference is when you start sending leaders of high prominence into active war zones, putting them in harm's way. That's what Nancy Pelosi at 80 years old walking down the streets of Kyiv, that just seems fucking irresponsible. But maybe I'm wrong. Good comment. The Bushes funded Wuhan. Jeffrey Frost, I need to see some evidence of that. I've never heard that before. That the Bush family or the Bush administration funded the labs in Wuhan. As a Croatian and U.S. citizen, I can tell you facts. Russia is the aggressor, says Sylvia Spence. I'm not disagreeing with that. In fact, I totally believe that Russia is the aggressor. I made this clear earlier in the broadcast. I am not here to sympathize with what Russia is doing to the Ukraine, period. I'm saying that by putting world leaders from these NATO countries on the ground in Ukraine while that country is being bombed, we're literally making it so that Russia has to tiptoe or at least have some surveillance that these world leaders are in this country. I mean, there's a lot of NATO world leaders going in and out of the Ukraine while they're actively at war. How could you walk down the streets of the capital when we've been saying since day one that Russia intends to conquer the capital? If they start shelling Kyiv and Nancy Pelosi or Macron of France or Boris Johnson of the UK is walking down the street and they get killed, what are we supposed to do? Now we're going to be saying that the Russians killed Boris Johnson of the UK, killed their prime minister. Obviously, there's going to be people who are going to say that it was done intentionally. There's going to be people in the UK that favor Boris Johnson and are now going to want blood from the Russians. Why put this man into an active war zone and have him walk in the streets if you're not potentially trying to escalate or provoke something? That's my point. Not defending Putin at all with what he's doing in the Ukraine. I believe Putin is indeed committing war crimes, but that doesn't explain NATO member states sending their own world leaders and dignitaries to walk the street of a war zone. Here's one from Candy Coated Cyanide, love the name, frequent viewer. You're saying what I expected in this crowd. If Pelosi goes, I'm not crying any tears for her. Boo fucking who? I get it. I don't expect this audience to have any tolerance or any sympathy for Nancy Pelosi. However, it's a United States dignitary. She is essentially a world leader for this country. I mean, what is she, like third or fourth place to take the presidency? I mean, I understand you don't like her. You don't like her policies. You don't like her legislation. I get it. But at the end of the day, she is an American. You really would be okay with watching her blown to bits at 80? That's the leader's own risk. I agree with you, Sylvia Spence. That is the leader's own risk. But I'm just simply saying that those leaders have lots and lots and lots of followers. I mean, let's just be real. This is a MAGA-oriented forum. You know, I make it clear I love talking about MAGA. If Trump went over there and done something like that, put himself in harm's way, and the Russians killed him, took his life, you're going to tell me there would not be any MAGA that would be suggesting that they did that intentionally, trying to silence him or something of that nature and wanting blood? Of course, there would be plenty of folks out there that would be extremely angry at the Russians, even if it was a total mistake. Maybe they didn't even know he was in that part of Kyiv and he got shelled or he got hit for some air ordnance. We would want blood. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to go any further than that with it. That's the problem with MAGA. Luke, you're saying there's a problem with MAGA, but your comment got cut off. I'd like to hear the rest of that. Old Girl One, welcome back. I think it is a morale booster, but it is still risky. The money and weapons sent are support enough. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. It is a morale booster, but at the same time, it is telling the Russians over and over and over again, we got these people. For the most part, we're doing everything we can right up to an Article 5. We haven't stepped up and suggested we're going to invoke Article 5 and send over NATO member states to defend the Ukraine, but we're doing every damn thing you could do right up to that point. So there's no denying if you're in the nation of Russia that the world is against you on this. There is no denying that. And by the way, I do watch some of the YouTube channels of Russian citizens using VPNs to get the message out of their nation. If you're aware, you know that Russia has banned TikTok, Facebook, and a lot of social media. They cannot get out on by normal avenues, but they can use virtual private networks, and they are getting things out. And it does appear as if they're not very happy with the quote-unquote special operation. Just the fact that they can't call it a war, they can't call it an invasion, or they face 15 years in prison. There's a lot of Russian citizens themselves that realize what their leader is doing is wrong. I have seen the VPN usage as well from Russians. Yeah, Miss Petra, yeah, it's coming out. It's definitely, they're getting the message out. Albeit, I got to give a shout out because that's got to be incredibly brave to do that. You don't know at any given time if Putin is sitting up in the middle of the night or some members of Russian intelligence, because I'm sure they're watching this shit. They're getting it out, but it's not like they're getting it out in secret. If we can see it, you best believe Russian intelligence sees it. At any given time, whether it's Putin or a high-ranking member in Russia could just simply say, go get that girl or go get that guy and arrest him. So it is very brave and perilous that they would do that, because when you're talking about a dictatorship, it's not like they can't change the rules at any given time. They can tell you today, do not refer to this as a war or an invasion. You can only call it a special operation. And you get out and tell the world it's a special operation, and they may come and arrest you and say you didn't dictate it the right way. You just don't know. So that's got to be really scary for them to do that. Trump literally gave Russia U.S. intel. That came from Space Dust. I like the name. But in regards to Trump giving Russia our intel, I have heard allegations like that. But I'm going to ask you, elaborate on that. Follow that comment up. I want to know exactly what you're talking about. I've heard allegations, but I've never seen proof. So I want you to let me. Has anybody else heard that, by the way? Let's see here. Appreciate the follow, James Lawson. And there are people here that would love Putin, but his people have no freedom. There are people everywhere that would love everyone. I mean, even when you look at what Hitler was doing in the 1940s, there were Americans here that would side with him. I talk about the Confederate flag sometimes on some of my broadcasts, and folks bring up regularly. There were black Confederate soldiers. I don't care what conflict you're talking about. There are always going to be people who fight on what you would consider to be the wrong side of the conflict. We've had Americans go to the Middle East and join ISIS, and it's like, what the hell? We had Japanese in this country help us break Japanese codes and fight the Japanese. There's always going to be some people out there that are willing to do some shit that you would make them say, you do realize you're on the wrong side of this, right? Our government, along with other countries, are trying to goad Russia into war. Both parties guilty. DJ Brown 941, that is the question I'm asking, because something seems a little shaky. I'm just going to say that. Ms. Petra says, I have heard that as well about Trump in regards to giving Russians intel. What did they give? What is the allegations of, like, for instance, what intel are folks alleging that Trump gave to Russia? I'm really curious about that. So somebody let me know in the comments. But before then, the one, the only frequent viewer, very well spoken, Harris Jordan joins the program. What's going on, Harris, this morning, this Sunday? Happy Sunday to you.
What's up, man? Happy Sunday.
You the man. What's up?
So the thing that people are talking about of Trump giving Russia intel is we found intel of a potential terrorist attack in Moscow, and our intel forces, our intelligence community, gave that intel to Russia to prevent a terrorist attack in Moscow. There was supposed to be multiple bombs that were going to go off in Moscow near Russian parliament or whatever they have. And our intelligence officials gave them the intel in order to stop the bombing.
So you're suggesting that the only intel we gave them was to help prevent a terrorist attack?
Yes.
Okay. I personally don't have a problem with that, but I'm going to ask the viewers, is that, for you guys who suggested that Trump gave the Russians intel, is that the intel you're talking about? Because I personally would not have any issue with that, to save them from.
The only other intel that we ever gave Russia was that we were going to bomb Syria, and that was in order to get the Russian troops out of the air bases that we were going to bomb.
That never made any sense to me. You had the president, I cannot think of his name right now, but the leader of Syria was bombing his own. Assad, yes. You had Assad bombing his own people. And we were on the side of his people, the rebels. Russia was on the side of Assad. So why would you warn the Russians that you're going to be launching a strike against Assad when the Russians are there defending Assad? That seemed really weird to me.
So people have to understand, do you want to risk pissing off Putin and killing Russian soldiers? Or do you want to say, hey, we're not trying to kill anybody, we're just trying to destroy the property that was used in all of these attacks. That's it. We're not trying to kill anybody, we're just trying to destroy what was actually used.
That doesn't make any sense to me. If you don't want to piss off Russia or provoke a major conflict, you don't bomb the country while they're there. Like, for instance, what we're doing with the
We
Ukrainians.
didn't bomb Russia.
Well, no, Syria. I'm talking about Syria. Like, for instance, what's going on in Ukraine. Even though we're sending the Ukrainians weapons, we're not deliberately bombing anywhere in that country right now, so that we would have to warn the Russians, as you say, to get out the way. Once we got an adversary there like Russia, to me it makes no sense for the United States to bomb something in Syria, but warn the Russians, who probably in turn warned Assad as well, that you're bombing. I mean, you pretty much just told everybody to get out the way. I mean, what's the purpose of?
But that's, people have to understand that is a calculated risk, right? So if we're going to bomb something, our intention may not be to kill somebody in either Syria's army or Russia's army, but all we're trying to do is show Syria, hey, we're not messing around. I told you this was a red line. You crossed that red line, and so now we are going to destroy the targets that you used to cross that red line.
Yeah, but
whether there are people there or not, that's on you, but we're telling you this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, but if I use a building or structure or whatever, or a vehicle to launch an attack, and you want to destroy that vehicle to show me I crossed the red line, but you give me warning you're going to do it, I'm going to take all of the intel I need out of the vehicle. I'm taking all the equipment. I mean, you're essentially bombing a hollowed shell at that point. The purpose of bombing is to catch people off guard so that you can completely
how much equipment? We're not worried about the intel. We're only worried about the equipment itself, right? We're trying to destroy their infrastructure.
You don't even, when you give them a warning, they might even take the tires off some vehicles. I mean, when you give me a warning, if you told.
Trust me, if you're going to bomb something and you have a heads up that somebody is going to bomb you, you're not going to worry about taking tires off of a truck. You're going to take the necessary ammunition out, and you're going to get your personnel out, and that is it. They only had 30 to 45 minute warning. You can't do that much with 30 to 45 minutes.
I don't know about the 30 to 45 minute warning.
That's been 100% proven. They only had about a 30 to 45 minute warning.
So in other words, in your opinion, the only purpose of bombing Syria was not really to accomplish anything other than just to deliver a message.
Absolutely.
Okay, and it did not cause anything over there to stop. So what was the message?
It did. They haven't gassed anybody since.
Okay, so you're okay with them killing their own people just as long as they don't gas them.
Well, it's a civil war, right? But we told them specifically, you cannot gas citizens because that is a war crime. And under a president that has balls, that president is going to say, if you cross this red line, which is the same exact red line that the president before me said is the red line, if you pass this red line, I'm going to do something about it. And he crossed that red line, and he did something about it. People may agree, people may not agree whether it was a bad or a good idea, but he said he was going to do something about it if he crossed that red line and something was done.
Okay, well, from my own personal opinion, I don't think it was a bad or a good idea. I think it was ineffective. I mean, okay, you can kill all the people you want just as long as you don't gas anybody. If you gas people, then I'm going to bomb the places you use the gas from. So kill as many as people.
So here's my question: either you want the United States to get involved in foreign wars, or you don't. This is where the left loses me. Because you can't complain about us getting involved in foreign wars, and then when somebody does get involved in it, then you say, well, you didn't go far enough.
Well, no, okay.
Are we supposed to stay involved in it, or are we not supposed to stay involved
in it? That's a fair point. That's a fair point. And my response to that point would be, if you don't want us to get involved in shit, don't. If you do. It's the half-ass shit. What we're discussing right now is half-assed involvement. That's what I have a problem with. If you're not going to get involved, you want to. It is half. If you believe it's okay to kill people conventionally as long as you don't use gas, that's a half-assed involvement. You're not saving any lives.
Because it is a civil war, right? And we're talking about war crimes. So using gas against citizens is illegal under war, under crimes of war.
So you believe that the only
Not, you,
you believe the only methods of you believe the only war crimes that Assad was committing was with the gas. Outside of that, everything else he was doing is fair game.
because it's a civil war. It is a declared civil war.
Okay. All right. We view that. We obviously view this differently. Okay, that's fair, but we view this differently.
It is a civil war that Obama and Clinton started. The Geneva Conventions. Thank you.
Yeah, I
It is
see
a
that too.
civil war that it is a civil war that Obama and Clinton started. They literally started that war.
Okay, like I said, we just will see this different. In my opinion, if you're going to help the people, help the people. If you're not going to help the people, don't help them. I mean, he can kill you just as long as he don't use gas. If he use gas, we'll help you. But as long as he don't use gas, we're going to watch him kill you.
See, you're conflating things again. We're talking about being in a civil war versus violating the Geneva Conventions, right?
No. Is that? Let me ask you this. Let me stop you. Hold on. Is that a civil war, or is it just Assad running over his own people and them trying to fight for freedom?
No, it was a civil war because it was before Assad even came into power. It was started when Gaddafi was taken out by Obama and Clinton.
Okay, I read
They
that.
threw the money in there. They threw the weapons into Syria to take Assad out, or not Assad, Gaddafi out, because he would not agree to give up any oil.
Okay, all right. My research tells me different than what you're saying, but okay, we got a difference in how we see this. That's all I'm gonna say.
So I mean, it's frustrating when people on the left say, "Well, we have to stop Putin because he's committing war crimes." Okay, then do something about it. Strike Russia. Do something about it. Then don't turn around and say, "Well, Trump didn't do enough."
Well,
Okay.
everyone is going. Everyone is going.
Putin's now, but you're not doing anything about it now. But you're complaining that Trump didn't do enough then.
No, as far as I'm concerned, no, wait a minute. It's not about me saying Trump didn't do enough. To me, I don't like what he actually did. I don't believe if you're going to launch an attack, warning the victims of the attack ahead of time, to me, negates the value of the attack.
You warn the victims of the attack.
You just said he did, and I know he did. You just said he gave him 45 minutes warning. You just said it.
We warned Russia. Russia was not the victim of the attack.
You got to be kidding me. You're going to tell me we warned Russia and you don't believe any of that message got to Assad? Really?
What happens after that is not on us.
Oh
if
my
Russia
God.
wants to tell Syria, if they want to tell their forces that we're going to bomb them, that's on them.
Okay. All right.
We didn't warn Syria. We did not warn the victims of the attack.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just say this. We can agree to disagree. I totally disagree with what you're saying. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But in regards to the Ukraine, do you believe we are trying to provoke this whole situation to escalate it?
Yes.
Give me your spiel on that. Based on what? Is it what I just stated, or do you have a different avenue on that?
So, I mean, one, Putin is committing war crimes, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Do you, as the left, do you believe in humanity?
That's got to be a trick question, of course. We're tree huggers. The left is tree huggers, so obviously we're going to believe in humanity, but go ahead.
Well, the left is also baby killers, but anyway.
That's a good. Let me stop you and say that actually is a good fucking comeback. I can't even argue with that. That is a good fucking comeback. But go ahead.
So, if Biden removes the sanctions from the pipeline, like he did in May of last year, and gives Putin billions of dollars worth of money in oil, right? Which supplies Putin the means to ramp up his army and his conscripts and everything to prepare for this invasion.
Where are you getting this from? You're suggesting that Biden is potentially going to literally give Putin money in oil?
He already did. He removed the sanctions that Trump put on the Russian pipeline last May.
Okay, wait a minute. You're going into a different area now. Okay.
No, it's Russia's pipeline that goes into Germany, right?
Okay.
To supply Eastern Europe or Western Europe with oil.
Okay.
Okay. Trump put a sanction on that pipeline.
How can Trump, wait a minute, how can Trump in America put a sanction on a Russian pipeline in Eastern Europe? How do you even do some shit
Then
like
how
that?
then how is Biden, okay, let me ask you this then. How is Biden putting all of these sanctions on Russia now?
He's not putting sanctions. He's getting the cooperation of NATO to impose sanctions in their region. Biden can't do that by himself, and neither can Trump.
We are actually putting sanctions, individual United States sanctions, on Russian banks.
Okay, well,
If you're asking how can we do that now, then, or how was Trump able to do that, then how are we able to put individual sanctions on Russian banks?
I think, okay, I'm going to go with what Space Dust just said in the comments. The Russian pipeline sanctions were removed for Germany and the rest of Europe to get oil. It's not their fault Putin decided to bomb Ukraine. Do you see that?
Okay. So he just agreed that there were sanctions on the pipeline.
But it wasn't by Trump. It was by the NATO member countries. It wasn't just Trump himself.
No, it wasn't. It was literally the United States that put a sanction on it, which put pressure on all of NATO to also put sanctions on it, which literally stopped the pipeline.
Okay.
So Biden removed those sanctions in May of last year.
Okay, I think you're giving
a domino effect, and all of the other NATO countries removed their sanctions as well. Germany started buying oil from Russia again, which gave Russia billions of dollars in money.
Okay, I think you're giving you're giving Trump way too much power unilaterally. In regards to the sanctions you're suggesting that he imposed on the pipeline, that is a
look at the Nord Stream pipeline.
I understand what you're talking about. I'm just saying that you're making it sound like he went over into Europe and just did all this stuff on his own. And I just don't buy that. These folks in their country, in their region, those NATO member countries had a lot of involvement. You can't just Trump can't just go into the European theater and cut off fuel from Russia to Germany. That's what you're suggesting that he did. No, he can't do that by himself.
He literally can't.
Okay. Well, once again, I gotta say
this is the problem. You guys say, well, Trump can't do that. Okay, then why did Biden do it? If Trump couldn't do it, then why did Biden do it?
Okay, real quick for the folks on YouTube. Kim, I'm not watching the news. That is a Trump rally taking place in Nebraska right now. That's going on behind me. But I think that I think you're giving Trump way more power as a single individual than he has. I mean, we're not going to agree on this. I'm fine with that. But I do believe you're giving Trump more power as an individual than he has in that region.
Then you are giving Biden way too much power in order to sanction Russia how he has sanctioned Russia.
He hasn't done it by himself is what I'm saying. You're suggesting that what Trump did. No, he has not.
Literally, individually, as a nation, put sanctions, put stops on federal or on international banks that allow Russian oligarchs to receive their money. We are the ones that literally told all these other countries to seize all of these oligarchs' boats.
Exactly my point. When I say Biden can't do it alone, you just said he told these other countries to do that. If the countries did not want to do it, America's not going to make them go over there and sanction shit. They're cooperating. They're in on it.
That's what I'm saying Trump did. He literally put all of this pressure. He put sanctions on all of these banks that stopped the pipeline.
Okay.
And then when Biden came into power in May of last year, he removed all of those sanctions that allowed the pipeline to start again.
Okay. I just disagree.
Look it up.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but just like what does it say? Mo Camper 1 says Biden asked the NATO to impose sanctions, and I agree with that. I don't believe it was done unilaterally. There's a comment. Guess Trump good, Biden bad. Brian Merrill is in the comments saying that that's kind of your viewpoint. Biden is bad, Trump is good. I don't know. Like I said, to me, I believe that the United States leads NATO, no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, these countries have the authority to say yes or no. Most of the time, they do fall in line with America. Like the Iraq War is a perfect example where a lot of countries said no. That's why you had a coalition of the willing, and you didn't have NATO fighting in Iraq. It was a coalition of the willing. They just picked a few countries, paid off, relieved some debt, and made up a group of folks. But at the end of the day, in regards to whether Trump or Biden is doing things unilaterally, no, these countries have permission to say yay or nay. They just tend to follow with us. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me ask this then: if Russia is so bad and Biden is doing a great job at all these sanctions and how he's reacting to Russia, why did he increase our oil imports from Russia from 1.6% to 3.6%?
Because of the good question. A lot of the reason why Germany and some of these countries and what you're talking about is still taking place is because they've been dealing with Russia in regards to oil for so long. You can't just stop that shit overnight. Just like when Biden.
I'm not talking about other countries. I'm talking about us.
I'm talking about us. I'm talking about us too. You can't just stop it overnight. Right now with Biden.
You literally can't.
I'm trying to answer your question. I am trying to answer your question. I'm trying to answer your question. When you look at what has happened in this country since Biden has taken office, fuel prices being one of the primary issues with every fucking thing going up in price, he's not going to cut off the Russians right now and drive prices up even more. I'm not saying he shouldn't do it. I'm just simply saying America does not have the stomach for fuel prices to go up even more. That's what I'm telling you when I say he can't do it overnight. Yeah, he can. Technically, he can. But when he looks at what would happen to his administration if we have to start paying even more at the pump for doing that, he made the financial decision not to do it. That is the response I'm giving you.
Incorrect. So if we reduce our oil output in the United States by 6.8%, which is what happened, we reduced our oil output drilling by 6.8% under Biden, and then we increase our oil import from Russia. I mean, come on, do the math.
Well,
that's why our prices are going up, because Russia controls their prices, we don't.
Well, I'm just saying.
If we were to bring back and the strength or increase our oil drilling by 6.8%, it would completely cancel out the Russian imports. We could stop our Russian imports whatsoever, and it would not hurt us. Our fuel prices would actually go down because we are not bringing it from another country. We would not have to recover that cost, and our fuel prices would go down drastically.
Well, I'm just
proven. Okay,
well, I'm just simply saying, and by the way, you're getting a few folks in the comments that totally agree with you. So it is what it is. Gino Keefe said this guy got you. Like I said, no Snowflake Zone. This is what we're here for, folks. It's to pass ideas around. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. But I'm telling you the way that I see it. If his way is the correct, is actually closer to what's happening, so be it. Then I'm being fucking schooled. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm just simply saying that the way I've seen it is different than the way you've seen it. But it looks like more folks in the comments have seen it your way as well. Someone says, exactly, I just looked him up. He did sanction anyone that helped with the pipeline. Colin Hughes, I don't get that. You said
he's talking about the Russian pipeline.
Okay.
Any company that assisted with that was sanctioned.
Okay, all right. And I'm just
with the Keystone XL pipeline, what we need to understand is we were going to, the agreement for the XL section of the Keystone pipeline, we were going to receive 25% of that oil.
Okay.
Okay? That was going to increase our output as well. That was going to increase how much oil that we got from our own sources.
Okay.
So when you stop the XL section, that is a 25% reduction in what oil companies were expecting to come in. So they now have to increase their prices to cover that expected cost.
Well, let me say this real quick. I'm looking at some of the comments. Space Dust, who's been on here since the broadcast began, is saying that you're completely wrong. I just want to tell you folks, for any of you who think that what he's saying is incorrect, feel free to send an invite. Hold on, Harris. Feel free to send an invite. I will put you on to dispel what he's suggesting. I mean, so if you think that what Harris on here is saying right now is incorrect, you send me an invite. I'll put you on here live just like him, and when you can get your. Like I said, I don't run from anybody's comments. Go ahead, Harris.
So I've read the agreement. Like they made the agreement public between I can't remember the company, but the Canadian company and the United States. They made the agreement public. It was 25% of the oil was going to come right back into the United States. A minimum of 25%. So why are we destroying our own economic goodness just to please another country that is going to use the money that we give them to kill other people?
Well, in regards to that comment, I will say that as a politician, your job is to deliver what your constituents want. When Biden shut down the pipeline, unfortunately, particularly for us who drive every damn day for a living, that's what the constituents wanted. That's what the left wanted. They wanted to move us towards energy, alternative energies. We were not ready to do that, and he tried to do it too quickly, and the price of fuel shot up. But that's what his constituents wanted. His constituents does not want us to be on fossil fuels indefinitely, whereas the right, Republicans are far more bigger fans of keeping things on fossil fuels. So just like with coal, Trump was a big fan of the coal mines in West Virginia. Went out there and spoke to them and everything. Whereas the liberals,
right, because we are, nobody else wants our coal, and because we can produce it in mass quantities and make a crap ton of money on it.
But what about the environment?
Nobody else in the world. Not that they don't want it.
But what about what coal? What about what coal does to the environment? What about what coal does to the environment?
Granted, it can be bad for the environment, but there are ways to counteract that.
And what was Trump doing to counteract that?
Literally, you just burn it cleaner. Like he put $2.6 billion in research and development of these refining industries that can actually burn coal cleaner.
Dad, Nick74 is claiming that Trump was buying coal from Russia. What?
No, he was not. Stop lying.
I'm just reading the comment.
You dumb people can literally go look this up. Go look at the trade paperwork. We were not buying more coal from Russia. God, you people are ignorant.
Okay, well, try not to personally insult the guest. Okay, I will say this.
It's extremely frustrating when people say, "Oh no, you're wrong."
Listen. I'm a fucking liberal. Hold on. I'm a goddamn liberal in here every day talking to a sea of red hats. And if I can control my frustration, and sometimes I do, if I can control it, you try to control it, man. That's all I'm saying. Try to control that part. I mean, that's just
all I'm saying is, if you go look at the actual paperwork, right? Because it's all available online. If you go look at the paperwork of our imports and exports, we did not increase anything to Russia.
Whoa! You're gonna tell me a Republican is starting to suddenly believe that what you see online is true? I mean, I can show you the election results online. You believe that?
I mean, I can't say anything about that because I've been taken off of here before for saying it.
Okay, I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. You're gonna say what's online. I'm like, I can tell you a bunch of things online that you don't believe in.
Well, right, but most people don't believe the what the hell was his name? The report that came out about Trump and Russia collusion. Mueller. Most people don't believe that. Most liberals don't believe the Mueller report because that didn't say anything about Russia collusion.
Well, the thing about it is people have their minds made up on what they already believe, and what goes online is not going to make a difference. Like somebody in here, I wanted to respond, but when you were talking, suggested that Trump never said anything racist, and I've covered on here several times that he has said something that is undeniably racist. I'm not saying the guy is racist or not. I don't know what's in his heart, but he has definitely stated something, and I've mentioned it in here several times, that is undeniably adverse to the African American community, and it's inexcusable. So, yeah, people just don't believe what they don't want to believe.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the USMCA agreement for a second. People say, "Oh, well, Mexico's not paying for the wall." They absolutely are. 6 cents out of every transaction literally goes straight to the wall.
Well,
so did we pay for the wall up front? Absolutely, but Mexico is paying us for that wall.
Okay, well, I've made it clear on the broadcast, just like with defunding the police, Mexico is going to pay for the wall was never meant to be taken literally. Just like the phrase defund the police was never meant to be taken literally. Folks just did because it was so, both phrases, Mexico's going to pay for the wall, defund, both phrases were so poorly worded that I understand why the other side took it and ran with it. But no, I understand what Trump was talking about. Getting a trade imbalance under control, getting the tariffs and getting us more revenue from tariffs and using that to pay for the wall. That's what he meant from day one. But when you say Mexico's going to pay for the wall, it does sound like the president of Mexico is just going to walk over and hand you a check and pay for the wall. So I don't hate on any liberal that ran with that. No different than I don't hate on any Republican that ran with defund the police, means somehow we're not going to have any cops. And that was never what they meant either. That's just politics.
Well, see, I have a problem with the defund the police argument because they literally were saying that they wanted to defund the police.
No one in the here's what I mean. No one of any prominence that actually had the ability to do that said that for more than 20 seconds. Nobody with you didn't have any city councils or anybody that were actually trying to really do that. They gave that lip service for 20 seconds.
Seattle did it, Chicago did it, New York did it, Minneapolis did it. They literally reduced their budgets by 40% and crime is skyrocketing. Reducing your budgets is not defund. Defunding means take all the money out of it. You wouldn't have police if you defunded. Defunding the police means taking money away from them, right?
Okay. No, defunding the
budget. Hang on, no, stop. When you defund the police, you are taking away from their budget. When you take away from their budget, that is defunding the police. So when you take money out of a budget, you are taking money away, which is funding, and so you are therefore defunding the police. Yes or no?
I don't agree with the way you.
No.
I'm answering your question. You just don't like the answer.
No, yes or no?
I'm answering your question. You don't like the answer. My answer is no. My answer is no. You just don't like the answer I'm giving you.
Then you're a liar. Because defunding the police means taking money out of the budget. Taking money out of the budget means taking money away from that police department, which is defunding them.
Okay. Let me ask you this question.
Completely, but it is literally defunding them because you're taking funding away from the police. Yes or no?
Okay. Yes, in that aspect. Let me ask you this question.
Boom.
Okay. Well, look, if you're here to just talk and not listen to a counterpoint, then that's different. But you gotta allow the counterpoint to come in. I'm not saying you're always wrong. I'm just saying you can't just dominate the conversation. Let me ask you this question. You got a town of, say, 5,000, 10,000 residents. They have moderate crime, nothing too bad. And that town wants a new command center. You know, these big, huge 50-foot trailers. They want a new command center that's worth $10 million. You, as the county government, state government, does not want to allocate the maintenance required to take care of a big, huge command center that this town does not need. If you take the money away from them to fund the maintenance on this big ass trailer that they do not need, is that defunding that town's police?
Yes, because you're taking funding away from them.
Is that a legitimate form of defunding? If they don't need this equipment, and you use that money to reallocate it to other cities in that state or something, would you not think that was a legitimate move made?
Well, yeah, because it sounds like they were overfunded in the first place.
That's what they're talking about, is that you're sitting...
No, it's not.
You're not... Now, wait a minute.
Absolutely is not.
That is not true.
Did you know that in New York City alone, education has more budget than the police?
You not. You
Department
just.
of Education in New York City has more funding than the police department, but yet they want to defund the police.
You
Why not
just.
defund education in New York City? Hang on. Why not defund education in New York City? Because New York City has one of the highest dropout rates in the entire country. So obviously the education funding is not working.
Okay, now.
Why do they want to fund the education more, but not the police?
You're going in the direction that, okay, you're taking it in a different direction. What I'm simply saying is that, like right after the Iraq War, for instance, a lot of military surplus came back to this country and started going to police departments. And there were a lot of folks during the defund movement that said, we don't want our police to have war equipment dealing with our particular neighborhoods. We don't believe you should have an AMRAAM or something like that. That's what I'm hearing in terms of defunding the police. You see something, or wait a minute, or another example. If we get a call for somebody who has mental issues, do not just send out some folks who only know how to kill to stop an issue. Send out somebody that has mental training. That's the difference where we're talking. That's when we had a difference in.
Have you ever worked for a police department or security or anything like that?
Yes.
Which department?
I've worked cash in transit. I've worked armed security. I've worked security over in Australia. I've worked several security. Everything from bouncing in clubs to carrying cash with a gun. I mean, what are you talking about?
So then you should know that people, when they call 911 for an issue, they don't always tell the whole story, right?
Fair enough.
Because sometimes you will get police that show up and say, "Oh, we received a report of this, and it had nothing to do with what was actually the issue," right?
Okay.
Okay. So when you say, well, why do cops show up to a mentally ill patient or someone that is having a mental issue and they're just there to kill? Okay, that's not the.
I didn't say that. I didn't. No, I did not say that.
Of course, you're going to interrupt me again.
I didn't say they were dead because I'm gonna interrupt you when you say something that's flat out false. I didn't say the police are just there to kill. I didn't say that, but go ahead.
You said that soldiers came back who only know how to kill, and then they joined police departments.
Okay, I didn't say go. I said the police, when they come out, the only way they know how to stop a threat is to kill.
Okay, so when someone calls the police department, right, and says this guy is having an issue, he's crazy, I don't know if he has a gun or not, I don't know if he has this, I don't know if he has that. Okay, so the police, all they get the information is, and I've seen it firsthand, they only get the information of unknown weapon, because they don't know if the person has a weapon. They say unknown weapon, severe or acting crazy, blah blah blah, right? So they get there and they think, okay, this guy might be having an issue, he might be just crazy, he might have a gun, I don't know.
Okay. Well, let me say something real quick in response to the comments. There's a few folks in here that are yelling out to kick you off. Let me make it clear. I don't deny. Hold on, hang on, Harris, you got to let me run the program. Not you. You're the caller. You're not running the program. Okay, let me just say this. For you folks who are suggesting to kick him off, I let everybody in here speak. If you want to come on, send your invite, and I'm willing to speak with you directly, and you can give me your counterpoints. I've given this man plenty of time to get his point across, and I assure you I will give you the same amount of time. I don't kick folks off because I disagree with them. So for those who are suggesting that, do you want to talk? Send your invite, and we'll go ahead and tackle that. Go ahead, Harris.
Okay, so when you have police officers that don't get every bit of information and they show up to a 911 call, you have issues that arise from that. Okay? They don't know every bit of information because they are not there. They are only going off of what they are told from a 911 caller. A 911 caller may not give all the correct information. So police only have maybe 5% of the information when showing up to a call. So they don't know everything that's going on.
Okay. All right. Well, here's, I think, where we have a fundamental difference. You're suggesting that defunding the police just simply means taking money from police, potentially causing a reduction in police, and all that. In my opinion, the way I view it, it is indeed reallocating funds. There are a lot of police who don't even know what the fucking Constitution is. They ask you, well, can I see your license? And you're sitting in the passenger seat. Well, I don't have to give you my license. I'm not driving. A lot of cops don't realize that. What the liberal side of the aisle believes defunding the police is training them properly. So what you're talking about in regards to mental issues, some of that stuff does not happen. Or training them in the value of de-escalating situations. You're out to protect and serve the public, not defend your ego. And a lot of these controversial issues that have taken place, and I'm not just talking about racial stuff, let's be clear, a lot of this shit happens to whites and folks from other backgrounds as well. If the police went to scenes with the primary goal being to de-escalate a situation, a lot of this stuff would not happen. That would be done in reallocating funds and focusing on something more than just simply teaching them how to fucking shoot. Teach them how to talk to people. Teach them how to de-escalate situations. Teach them the goddamn Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That's what I mean by defunding the police. And I am by no means using this to hammer police. I'm just simply saying this is the way we saw the defund of the police movement. You saw it differently, but go ahead.
Okay. I want you, when you have time today, I want you to look up New Mexico police officer Darian Jarrett.
What am I going to find?
Huh?
What am I going to find?
You're going to find an individual who was an officer for, I think it was seven or 8 years in New Mexico, southern New Mexico. He was on a traffic stop 2 years ago, and during this traffic stop, he walked up to the door, was extremely polite because it's all on dash cam and body cam. He walked up to the gentleman and said, "Hey, did you know that you were going this fast? Blah blah blah." He said, "Do you have any weapons or anything in the vehicle?" The guy said, "No." He said, "Okay." He said, "Let me have you come out of the vehicle real quick." He says, "It looks like you had I want to show you your tail light was out, or whatever the issue was." So the gentleman said, "Okay, cool." So the cop literally walked around to the other side of the vehicle, of the suspect's vehicle, just to get them on the opposite side of traffic so none of them got hit.
I've seen the killing. I know what you're talking about. I've actually seen that officer get killed where the driver fired with an AR-15 from the other side and killed him while he was in the... Yeah, I've seen the actual murder of that. Let me just say this. By no means am I trying to undercut the fact that police do a dangerous job. I get that. I'm just simply telling you that the notion that officers do not go to scenes with the idea to de-escalate is flat out wrong. I'm just simply telling you that if officers went to scenes and actually was intent on de-escalating situations, a lot of this stuff wouldn't happen. We all know, regardless of what race you are, we all know that if you do not talk to police in the right way, they will potentially make up shit and fuck with you. We know that. If you get pulled over for speeding, and you speak disrespectfully to that officer, which is totally covered in your First Amendment rights. You don't have to speak respectfully. You have to abide by the law. But if you say you guys are just pigs trying to make money off of me, we all know that a lot of police will escalate that situation. Come up with bogus tickets, maybe even tow your whole fucking car. We all know that. How many people have joked about if you run from cops, it comes with an ass whooping? So we know that police for years have been escalating situations. That's all I'm saying, is that if they were taught that under all circumstances, your goal, unless you feel your life is in danger, should be to de-escalate a situation, not to protect your ego because you don't think the guy, quote unquote, respected you. He called you slick. He called you guy instead of calling you officer, so now you're fucking with him. We all know that stuff happens, and it happens far, far more than let me just say it this way. The shit you see on television is the most sensational stuff, where people like the George Floyds and the Rodney Kings and the media, the media playing games with race. The media loves when a black person is injured, and they make ratings off of that. But I continue that over 99% of people who are mistreated by cops do not make the news. They're not all black, by the way. Like I said, all you gotta do is talk to a cop that's having a bad day and he can fuck with you. That happens all the damn time. Defund the police, in my opinion, means training them to de-escalate situations, do not defend their ego, and a lot of this shit wouldn't happen. Go.
Okay, so then you need to clarify reallocating funds and defunding because they are not the same.
I just did, and I made that clear to you. That's what this whole fucking conversation blew up about when I told you from day one, just like what Trump said, Mexico's going to pay for the wall, is that it was the way they said it was improperly stated from the beginning. I just told you that before we got into all of this. You just said, well, you need to say that, and that's what I told you, is that they stated it improperly, and that's where this came from.
Okay, so do you understand that in order for cops to have a better understanding of mental health issues, they need more training, and in order to get more training, you need more funding?
No, you don't need more funding. And the reason I say that is because I just pointed out to you the example of using a big-ass command center. There's plenty of wasteful funding. Using Iraq war surplus. You don't need this shit. The police have a lot of stuff that they do not need. I mean, that's what I'm trying to... You got some police departments who have cars that are fancier than the average citizen. Like, you don't need all of this stuff. Some of the money you're talking about that they could use could come from some of that stuff.
Okay, so when was that? Was it 1996 or 97 or something like that? The LA bank robbery where the guys were completely covered and head to toe.
Yes, you're talking about the north. What is that? North. I know what you're talking about. I've seen the video and everything.
Okay. They had the Russian AKs, right? The Kalashnikovs and everything like that. They had the armored rounds that were literally going through the Chevy motor blocks.
They had on bulletproof trench coats. Let me just tell you this. Look, hold on. Let me stop you because I'm going to tell you why I'm stopping you. You're giving literally the worst example of the worst bank robbery in American history as an example of why they need weapons. There are robberies that take place in America all the time. Not one of them ever gets that fucking bad where the criminals are that armed. You're literally using the worst example you can come up with in American history to defend them getting weapons. Go ahead.
Right? Because we're supposed to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best, right?
No.
Just like our military, though, right?
No. These are American citizens.
God, of course you're going to interrupt me again. Jesus.
These are American citizens. You literally want them to go Beirut on American citizens.
No, I want to be prepared for anything and everything. I would rather be prepared and not need it than need it and not have it.
No. We can't afford that.
So, okay, fine. One guy in Dallas, killed 5 police officers.
Okay.
One guy.
I understand. I seen that video too. I seen the video of him doing it.
So we need to be better prepared for situations like that because it can happen at any time. Because at any time you could have a couple of people that end up making a homemade tank just like that one guy in whatever town that was that destroyed an entire town and destroyed an entire police department.
Wow. I get your point. Let me ask you a question. Did you see the video of what happened when they tried to arrest David Koresh in Waco, Texas years ago? Have you seen the video of that?
Yes.
Okay. The point I'm trying to make to you is, do you want the police at every search warrant to come to a house expecting and being prepared for a David Koresh?
Yes.
I just can't.
Because you don't. Okay, let me give you another example real quick. So there was a gentleman who he had a warrant, an outstanding warrant for assault with a deadly weapon, attempted murder, and a bunch of other crazy things, right? And in the town that I lived in, or just outside the town that I lived in, they went to his house. There was 17 police officers that were outside of his house serving a search warrant. They went in. He shot and killed 2 police officers, injured 13 others. So out of the 17 officers that were there, he shot 13 of them.
Okay. And how many search warrants in America Let me just respond to 3 comments in regards to what you said. Double Up 777 said police need nukes because Jose Padilla was going to detonate a dirty nuke. And I like that comment. Legacy 916 says, how many search warrants are done in a day, which is what I'm talking about. How could we possibly afford what you're suggesting that the police have based on how many search warrants are performed? If they showed up to every search warrant prepared for David Koresh, you would probably need about 100 cops at every search warrant. They ultimately used a tank, if I'm correct, to stop what was going on there by setting the house on fire or ripping it apart or something like that. You really want every search warrant to be operated as if David Koresh is inside.
I want the police to be prepared for the worst and to be able to hope for the best.
Okay.
That's what I want, because that's what you need to do in every situation of your life, right? Be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. But here's the issue, right? Because it all comes down to personal responsibility, right? Defund the police was all based off of a false narrative, anyways, right?
Wait. Say that again.
Defund the police has always been based on a false narrative, anyways.
Well, okay. Give me the narrative you're talking about. You're talking about what was actually justified.
The false narrative that police are going out and hunting down Black Americans and killing them in droves. That's false.
Okay, if that's that actually is false. Yeah, but I don't believe that's what Defund the Police was based on. But go ahead.
So, out of 327 million police contacts last year alone, do you know how many unarmed Black people were killed?
Less than a dozen. Less than a dozen. Yeah, less than a dozen.
It was 6.
Okay, but just like I mentioned to you earlier in this broadcast, the vast majority of Americans, Black, white, or green, that are mistreated by police don't die. Rodney King didn't die. Most people who are mistreated by police are exactly what I just told you. Folks who get either their civil rights or the Bill of Rights violated. Guys who get their cars searched against, guys who get their whole paycheck taken and told they have to prove they actually earned it to get it back. Most folks who are mistreated by police don't die.
Okay, so then it comes down to, let's say, personal responsibility.
No, it comes down to retraining and de-escalating.
Here we go again.
Personal responsibility.
At some point, regardless of whether what happened afterwards was right or wrong, right? Because Rodney King, what happened to him was absolutely wrong, right? I agree with you, 100%. It absolutely was wrong. No one should ever think that it was right. However, if he wasn't drunk and driving that night, which he was, right?
Right.
Okay. If he hadn't have done that, if he hadn't have committed a crime, he would not have been in that situation. True.
And what you're saying,
everything in life comes down to personal responsibility.
Okay, well, let me follow that.
You are not supposed to be doing, and you won't put yourself in a situation where you might have that situation happen to you.
Okay, that I was going to say true until you just added that last situation is false. And what I mean by that is there are folks who have been standing on the sidewalk filming police, which is a 100% lawful. It's been adjudicated by the Supreme Court that as long as you're not interfering with their actions, you can film police. They have no right to privacy in public. There is an endless number of citizens that have met an unfavorable ending because they simply stood on the corner filming cops. So the idea that as long as you're not doing anything wrong, the cops won't fuck with you is absolutely false. You may not die, which is what I said. I truly believe that if you're not doing anything wrong, chances of police killing you are virtually zero. But in regards to them fucking with you, violating your rights, violating your Bill of Rights, your civil rights, no, that can happen. You can just simply see somebody getting arrested and say, y'all wrong for that. And if you say that to the wrong officer, that officer can come over there and fuck you up. That happens all the time. So I totally disagree with the notion that personal responsibility will save you from this stuff. It will greatly limit the chances of it happening to you. But just like anybody else in their job or their profession, plenty of cops come to work having a bad day. Maybe their wife just left them. Maybe they don't like the divorce they're going through. Cops bring bad days to work too, and it often results in people getting hurt or wrongfully charged. So yeah, I don't believe that simply just abiding by the law is going to stop this from happening to you. Go.
But that personal responsibility also applies to the officer, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
If they're not doing anything wrong, then they shouldn't have to worry about the people videotaping them, right?
True. That's what I said about defending your ego, though. Is that when you defend your ego, you often confuse people. When you're defending your ego, you're often confusing what's right and wrong with. If I disrespect you or if I hurt your ego, that's not a violation of law. But a lot of cops treat it as if it is.
I understand that. And that's what I'm saying. Everything in life boils down to personal responsibility. If a police officer is not doing anything wrong, then he shouldn't have to worry about somebody videotaping him on the sidewalk. And also, if that person is not doing anything wrong by videotaping that officer on the sidewalk, then they should just back up further away, keep continuing to back away from that officer, show that they're not doing anything wrong, and then when everything is said and done, they can sue the police department, and they can show that their civil rights were violated.
Well,
right? It's all about personal responsibility.
Okay.
Don't go commit a crime and then just say, oh, well, you can't treat me that way, or you can't arrest me because I'm black.
Okay, I'm not even trying to throw a race into it, but Dencal's 22, his comment is spot on. It's a grand slam. He said, but police are rarely prosecuted. And I agree with that. Even if the cops are mistreating you, unless you have an ample amount of proof, nothing's going to happen. I don't care how bad they're treating you, how submissive and docile you are while they're doing it. You don't fight back at the side of the road, which I say that all the time. Fighting on the side of the road is a death sentence. You got to deal with it in court or whatever. But yeah, I agree with his comment. Taking the police to court and filing a complaint against them. How many of these cops that get caught in controversial cases, you look in their record and they got dozens of people that's been complaining about them. So he's absolutely right. They rarely get prosecuted.
What do you do about it?
That's where the retraining comes into play. That's what we're talking about, is you got to start actually doing something about this.
That is what people don't understand. If you look at a police department's budget, did you know that the vast majority of police department's budget is spent on vehicle maintenance?
You're making excuses.
It is not spent on people's salaries. It is not spent on salaries. It is spent on vehicle maintenance.
Okay, I think
if you take away from police department budgets, where are those budgets going to be taken away?
Okay, well, I think that to some degree you're making excuses. And here's one from Space Dust.
I'm not making excuses.
I think that. I think you are. I think you are.
How about people just stop being shitheads and stop committing crimes, and we won't need as much police department in the United States in the first place?
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask you the question that Space Dust just stated. How many times have cops tried hiding their body cam footage? Have you seen that? I know I've seen it a lot.
That's why the vast majority of body cameras in operation today, you cannot alter.
You can always
look at the city of San Jose. They have them on they have glasses that they have to wear, and the cameras are on the glasses. And if any officer is seen taking those off or hiding them in any way, they're immediately terminated.
Bro, I'm just telling you that there is no shortage of cops. I mean, there's actually videos of cops stopping in the middle of an assault and telling the other cops, we're being recorded, let me turn the camera off first. There's plenty of cases where when it becomes an investigation, the police will say something like, well, right now, because there's an ongoing investigation, we cannot release the footage. You notice anytime it's a justifiable shooting and folks are suggesting that the police did not have the right to do what they clearly had the right to do, the footage comes out immediately. But anytime it's slightly controversial, they come up with all kinds of excuses to delay the footage. There's a lot of lawyers that have had to sue the hell out of the police departments just to get them to release the footage. So when he says that they do try to hide footage, that comment is spot on. They actually do that, and they do that often.
I don't believe it's as often as you would think. Okay. However, you have to look at the statistics, right? 327 million police contacts last year alone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
At 327 million police contacts, how many police shootings were there?
You keep going all the way up to people getting shot. The complaints I'm making do not involve people dying or being shot. I've said it before, 99.9% of people...
You know so much about the subject. How many lawsuits were there last year?
How many people get abused by police and they're afraid to sue?
Then how many police assaults were there last year? Out of 327 million police contacts last year.
I can't believe...
Police assaulting the individual.
I can't believe you think this stuff. You really believe the average person, particularly those who already have criminal records, you think they're going to sue? You think they're going to report? You think anybody's going to take them serious? Most police assaults don't even get reported.
Answer my second question. Out of 327 million police contacts last year, how many of those contacts ended in fights between the suspect and the police officer?
How the hell? How would you even know that?
It's all online. Out of 327 million police contacts, how many lawsuits were there for violations of civil rights last year?
Well, let me answer the question you asked before that in regards to fights between the citizens and police. Any numbers you get on regards to how many contacts resulted in a fight between the officers and police, that information is coming to you from the police. If the police is arresting you and they hem you up against the car and they start yelling, "Quit grabbing my gun," even if it's false, it's going to go on record as you fighting with the police. So I'm just simply saying that you can't believe all of that because that is biased information. All of that information is only coming from the police, unless a citizen caught it on video. Out of all of those numbers, I would say 99% of them are actually simply the testimony of the cops. The citizen had nothing to do with that.
Then every single statistic coming from Black Lives Matter is also a lie.
I'm not. Where the hell that? Nobody's defending Black Lives Matter. Where the hell that come from? We're not even talking about Black Lives Matter. I made it clear on all of my comments that I'm not even talking about racial issues. You're trying to take it in that direction. I'm talking about folks of all backgrounds have their rights violated by cops who are trying to defend their egos. This is not a black and a white thing.
How many people had their rights violated last year?
Oh my God, it would probably be millions. Let me say this. There are people who get their rights violated and don't even know their rights are being violated. That's how bad it is. Go talk to a defense attorney. You want to find out how much police can be trusted on. Go talk to attorneys who deal with the police all day, every day. Go ask them how great police are, and I guarantee you they will sound closer to what I'm saying than what you're saying.
Okay, so you're saying that the entire police department in the entire United States is 100% corrupt.
Attorney George is in the comments. He says he's an attorney. Damn, would I like to have you on. No, I didn't say, in regards to your comment, Harris, you said, no, all police aren't corrupt. However, nobody denies that the thin blue line is a real thing. And this is something I actually had a cop I was debating with told me in regards to how difficult it is to help people out in the black community because they don't tell on each other. So they'll see a crime and not say anything. And I told him, I said, you can't complain about them not snitching when you guys don't snitch on each other either. I don't believe that all cops are bad. I don't even believe that by any means, I don't even believe it is close to saying the majority. I think most cops are good. However, I do believe most cops know a bad cop and choose to keep quiet about it. That's what allows this stuff to continue is the thin blue line. Is that when you have a bad cop, it is very difficult to get the good cops to even listen to you. They're so focused on protecting this guy or trying to sweep things under the rug that guy has to do a whole lot of shit before finally he comes to justice, which I just told you earlier. When they do catch people, they often have a whole laundry list of complaints on their record that have been constantly being thrown out Like Derek Chauvin. How many complaints against Derek Chauvin? He was on the force for like 19 years. He had at least one or two of them every year was being made against him.
Okay, so then instead of defunding the police or even reallocating funds, maybe we need to reevaluate police officers as a whole.
That costs money. That costs money.
Oh, okay, so we need to have more funding.
I think where you and I are disagreeing, I believe that there's enough money and it needs to be allocated from certain things to other things. Like you don't need to teach them how to kill. Like how often do you have to go to the range, stuff like that. You don't have to keep just simply focusing on preparing for a bad day. How about some of that focus being prepared for de-escalation? Or I mean, there's other things that can happen being a police officer than having to defend your life all the time. There are officers who do their entire career and they never have to kill anybody. But that's what they genuinely train the most for. Why not train a little bit more to de-escalate situations? Most cops, if you're not working in Chicago or LA somewhere, the chances of you having to kill somebody is very low. Yet that's the thing that they predominantly focus the most for. Like you said, be prepared. Expect David Koresh. Be prepared for the North robbers or whatever. You're focusing on, you're constantly focusing on, you're always focusing on a horrible day, even though 99.9% of their days are not like that.
Because literally at any time, a police officer can go from standing there talking to somebody and saying, hey, come over here on this side of the car so you don't get hit by traffic, to all of a sudden being shot in the head 3 times.
I agree with you, but that's not what generally happens, though. You can't spend your entire career being prepared to get shot in the head 3 times.
It is happening more and more frequently. So yes, police officers need to be more prepared now more than ever for those things to go wrong at any time.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say, if you want to repair police relations with the public, and your focus is on, I need you to constantly be prepared for getting shot in the head 3 times. I don't want you stopping me. If your approach to me is going to when you approach me, you're focused on the potential of being shot in the head 3 times. I don't want nothing to do with you if that's what's on your mind when you come approach me, because it will lead to you potentially making mistakes and hurting me when I don't deserve it, because you're expecting to be shot in the head 3 times.
So then you want crime to just be legal.
Where did that come from? I don't even get that question.
They didn't want to be stopped.
I agree with what
What cops supposed to do?
Jay Walker made a good response to you. He said, if you prepare for the bad all the time, the bad will happen. I totally agree with that. You'll shoot people a little bit quicker than you might. Now, I understand you want to go home at the end of the day. I totally understand that. You do want to be prepared for the worst situations. But if you approach every situation thinking the worst, it is going to make you act prematurely on people. Somebody who's just trying to reach in their glove compartment to give you their insurance card, you're thinking gun and they're dead. That's why I'm suggesting that if you're that scared, you shouldn't get in that profession. Go find some. I mean, you have to realize when you get in that profession, that can happen. But if you're that afraid, you're going to be killing people that don't deserve to be killed.
Okay, well, if you don't want a cop to treat you that way, then don't go out in public. That's what you just said.
Oh my God. Okay, all right. I don't even know where to go with that.
If you're that scared, then stay at home.
Okay, I don't know where to even go with that.
If is going to pull you over for no reason and treat you that way for no reason, then stay at home.
I gotta agree with Angry Patriot, who virtually never agrees with me on anything, said police need to remember it's to serve and protect, not to police the people. I think that's what he's trying to say there. And what you're suggesting is like Gestapo type shit. I mean, all they're thinking about is I might die, I need to go home.
The only Gestapo in this country is the Democratic Party. and that's a fact. You know how that's a fact?
No, I don't. Tell me.
It's the Bureau of Disinformation.
Okay.
Joseph Goebbels would be super proud and applauding President Biden right now.
Okay. Well, listen, Harris, I don't want to ignore. Listen,
I want to know your opinion on that.
I'm okay. Give me that one more time, but I'm gonna have to drop you in a minute. I want to. I've been ignoring the comments, but go ahead. One more time. Go ahead.
President Biden directed the Department of Homeland Security to create a bureau of disinformation and misinformation.
I don't believe that. That's my answer to that. I don't believe that.
They literally named who the lady was that's going to be the director.
A Bureau of Disinformation. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. I want to get back to the comments. I will look that up. Hang on.
It's literally the Ministry of Truth from the book 1984, and that is literally the Gestapo.
Okay. Well, let me respond to you and say this. I'm gonna go ahead and get back to the comments. I will look that up.
Not from Russia.
Hold on. You're not.
That is not from Russia.
You asked a question. And you're giving me no time at all to respond to you. I told you I will look the Bureau of Disinformation up, and next time I'm on, I will address you directly on that. Fair enough?
Okay, first of all, Jay Walker, it's from the book 1984, not from anything in 1984. Jesus Christ.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go now. Come on through next time. I will look up the Bureau of Disinformation.
You look it up on...
Oh my God! Well, we'll talk next time. Okay, I didn't mean to cut him off, but the Bureau of Disinformation. I'm real curious. I'm assuming some of you guys may have heard that. Christine77 says, "Look up January 6th. It's a fact." I guess to some degree, if what Harris stated, the Bureau of Disinformation is a fact, I think the only difference between something like that and the election is that he was dumb enough to actually name it, because there's no doubt that even listening to a lot of Republican governors, senators, and Congress people, the information coming out from the Trump administration on the election was disinformation. Trump just was smart enough not to call it the Bureau of Disinformation. So if what he's saying in regards to Biden is true, then Biden was an idiot to actually name it that. I think all politicians, particularly at the presidential level, do things that are very similar to that. Why he would deliberately give it that name is just fucking irresponsible. But yeah, like I said, when you look at the way Trump handled that election, it's pretty clear that there were folks. I mean, like for instance, Antifa was there on January 6th. There's no proof of that, and there are plenty of people that was releasing that. Even though Trump himself has never suggested that Antifa was involved in that on January 6th. And there's plenty of folks on the right that are saying that. There's some folks who are even saying Black Lives Matter kicked off what happened on January 6th. There's nobody that was on the ground there that day on January 6th suggesting that Black Lives Matter or Antifa was the one that did that. So I can't believe that Biden would choose such a dumb name, but shit, Biden fucks up all the time. I'm not here to defend Biden, folks. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not here to defend Biden. If he actually gave it that dumbass name, then, hey, call it out. I don't have a problem with that. And he got Hunter a place on the board. Radio Talk Telegram, Hunter Biden. Listen, I guess some might argue about Trump employing a large portion of his family. I suppose that's okay in this room. I'm not here to defend the Bidens. That's all I'm going to say. Bureau will be part of DHS, which will mean they will be monitoring threats. The Disinformation Bureau. Trump was responsible for January 6th. He gave all the, what does this says? Dre, 1865. Trump was responsible for January 6th. He gave it all those people together, and they did what he wanted. That's currently what they're investigating. There are a lot of people who do believe that. Mac 10, thank you for those roses. There are a lot of folks who believe that, but right now it's still in the allegation phase. I'm not going to say that Trump was responsible for it, but I will say that if it comes out that way, I'll say it. But Mac 10, appreciate that. Good shit. But that is what folks are alleging. Everything that idiot told you was different. User got 1962. Try to avoid the personal attacks. And I do understand that he also used the idiotic term to refer to somebody. But yeah, you're saying that everything that Harris Jordan gave me was disinformation. I invite some of you folks, just like I got on here and talked live with Harris, I invite you to come in. If you disagree with him, feel free to come on. We'll hash it out. Fact checkers with obvious bias, Rompy Kitty, that definitely happens. Where I disagree with him on is some of the things he was saying about the police, because he does paint a picture that as long as you follow the law, Nothing will happen to you. My picture suggests that as long as you follow the law, it greatly reduces their chances of something happening to you. But a bad cop is a bad cop. There are plenty of cops out there that are on the take. Certainly with stop and frisk, USMC, Mac 10, you've been very generous. Thank you. Definitely much love to you. Appreciate that. In regards to cops, there are plenty of cops that are on the take. For instance, stop and frisk is something that they had taking place in New York big time. You're going to tell me that if the cops hemmed somebody up against the wall, reached in their pocket and found, a couple $1,000s in balled up bills, ran the guy's background check and noticed that he had a few felonies on his record. If they take that money from that guy, he's not getting that back. Even if it's legitimately his. I mean, come on now, you're gonna tell me that stuff like that doesn't happen, where you pull over a drug dealer or something like that and he's got money on the back seat or something like that? You allow the more powerful you make police, the more likely you are to literally create corruption, because you're now throwing power. What do they say? Power corrupts people. So the idea that you could simply abide by the law and nothing is likely to happen to you, I just disagree with that. In my opinion, the stop and frisk itself is something happening to you. If you're not doing anything wrong and you just happen to be walking down Manhattan, or you're in Queens or somewhere, walking to the store on your way to work, and the cop pulls you over and just starts going through all of your shit, to me, something is happening to you wrong right there. That alone is wrong. That's unconstitutional. Whatever happened to the Fourth Amendment, protecting you against unlawful searches and seizures? All of a sudden, Giuliani decides that the crime in my area is so bad, I'm going to start denying Fourth Amendment rights to people. And everybody, okay, well, that's good, cool, let's do that. Whatever happened to my Constitution lovers? Same shit with the Patriot Act. George Bush had you so afraid of terrorism that you were okay with them just doing warrantless searches. Remember the Patriot Act? You talk about liberals taking away your fucking rights. That came from Republicans. That allowed them to do warrantless searches. They could literally come in your house, look around, conduct a surveillance, and never tell you they were there. No warrant or anything required to do that. And there were plenty of Republicans on board to support that unconstitutional piece of legislative bullshit. And now here we are in 2022. You know who they use that shit against? It's not terrorists, it's not Middle Easterners. It's American drug dealers and white-collar criminals, natural-born American citizens. That is some shit that came from the Republican Party, that was supported by a lot of Republicans, and it is used against Americans, and it is 100% unconstitutional, but they had you scared of terrorism, so you allowed that bullshit to happen. 95% of those during stop and frisk were innocent. That came from didnt 22. I don't know what the numbers are, but taking away the constitutional, even if it was 10%, you're still violating people's constitutional rights. If a person is not committing a crime, you can't just walk up and just start going through their shit. No different than if you are a law-abiding gun owner, you don't want somebody taking your gun or demanding you show proof of ownership or some shit like that. But because this was happening, and in most cases to a particular group of people, let's be real, some senator's son is not going to be walking out of the Capitol building and the cops just stop and frisk him. It's people who do not have money. They're on the lower social economical end of the scale. Oftentimes they're minorities, and they're being stopped and frisked and searched and let go. And that is a violation of their constitutional rights. Let's see here. Big Jake, Trump shouldn't have even been there. He lost, what did that say? Hang on, Jake. He lost something out of that comment. Trump shouldn't have been there. This is 777. Trump shouldn't have even been there. He lost and knew he lost, incited a riot insurrection. Like I said, they're still investigating it, but there are plenty of people who believe that. Big Jake, what's up?
What's up, big guy?
You the man. What's going on? It's all good. I'm getting hammered. Harris Jordan didn't hold no punches. Harris Jordan put me through the ringer. Good man. What's up?
I seen that.
It was a good one.
So, the new bureau? Yeah, you really do need to look into that.
And it's called the Bureau the Bureau of Misinformation, right?
Yeah, Bureau of Disinformation.
Okay.
Disinformation.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I'm listening.
I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
So, next month, or actually this month, now it's May. May 22nd, the WHO is going to be having a vote on the sovereignty of nations. Did you hear about that?
A vote? No, I did not. A vote on the sovereignty of nations. Is this in regards to Ukraine or Russia trying to take sovereign nations and make them his own?
Nope, this is the WHO saying that whenever a pandemic like, COVID happens, they are the number one leader in that.
So now you're talking more like New World Order type stuff.
I wouldn't, if you want to put a label on it, sure. But it's happening.
Okay, I don't believe that's going to go anywhere. I'm just going to give my spiel on that now.
I don't want it to.
No,
I damn sure don't want it to. And as far as police, we got to do something about our whole ass system. The training, everything. Like, I was in the Marine Corps. We trained, day in, day out on freaking, CQB and, rifle training, whatever. And when I think of training for the police, it's like a lot of it is freaking death by PowerPoint,
Do you agree with Harris, the previous caller, suggesting that they should always be prepared for the worst, like show up to every house where they perform a warrant, expecting David Koresh and the Branch Davidian type stuff? Do you believe that?
So I'll go with what General James Mattis said. He said, "Be polite and professional to everyone you meet, but have a plan to everyone you meet."
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm aware of that phrase, but the question I would ask is, how could we possibly afford that? If you showed up to every warrant you performed, prepared for something like what happened at David Koresh's place, you would need 100 officers at every warrant that is served. You need to be prepared to do what you...
prepared.
Huh?
It's more mental preparation. I'm not talking like, rolling up with SWAT and stuff.
Okay.
Unless it is SWAT. But
well,
they are SWAT. They are definitely... They're seasoned.
Okay, I'm fine with mental preparation, but he's talking about having armaments and actual weaponry to handle something like that. And I'm telling him that you just simply can't afford that.
No-knock?
You said what?
For like a no-knock?
Well, let me ask you, did you see what happened with David Koresh? Did you ever see the actual attack on the Branch Davidian in Waco? This happened in the 90s, where they showed up and the folks inside the house were shooting and killing them. Okay, he's saying that because that has the potential of happening, all police should show up to a warrant scene prepared for something like that to happen. And I'm saying that, okay, you're talking mental preparedness. That's a different aspect of it. But I'm talking equipment, firearms. I'm talking things like that. I'm suggesting that when you look at the number of warrants that are performed in America every day, there's no way you could supply the police with everything they need to show up to every single place of a warrant expecting that. There's just, you don't even have enough officers to do that.
See, it's like, who are you rolling up on? Is it like the Bloods freaking, home base or something?
You don't know.
Or you rolling up on somebody that...
But you don't know. You could roll up on an old lady that's 80 years old and she may pull out a shotgun.
If you know it is. If you know it's one of those that, roll up. But if you are just going to go knock on someone's door because, he's got a warrant for, I don't know, something. Heck no, you don't need to freaking have a whole army out there to deal with that. You just got to make sure that you're mentally prepared, and that's what I mean by training. Freaking PowerPoint ain't going to do it for you. Okay. You can do that all day long.
What about de-escalation?
Prepared to be able to react.
What about de-escalation?
Absolutely. That's one of them.
Okay. All right. I
absolutely be able to de-escalate.
I think we may be a little closer than where me and Harris was at. I mean, because Harris was focused more on, as an officer, you just want to go home. You know that anybody you encounter could take your life, and you should just be focused and prepared for that all the time. And I was trying to tell him that the vast majority of encounters that officers have with police are not like that. In fact, there are plenty of officers that serve in America in which they never have to fire their gun in defensive use at all. Now, he was mentioning that it's happening to officers more and more. And I agree with that. I follow the Officer Down Memorial page. And in fact, on my Facebook page, I even give tribute to fallen officers. But I will say this, that they're just like the media, they're going to sensationalize officers that lose their lives in the line of duty. But in reality, only when it comes to being killed by other citizens, killed by angry citizens or law-breaking citizens, only a very small amount of officers lose their lives per year. I mean, how many badges? When you think about police in this country, whether it's city police, state police, the feds, IRS has police, the fucking post office has police, a lot of your colleges and universities have police. When you think about how many badges there are in this country, Capitol Police, for instance, a very minute amount of them lose their lives in the line of duty. Very, very small. I mean, you're talking, there's probably well over 1 million badges in this country. A very, very minute amount of them lose their lives in the line of duty every year.
Well, I think the rhetoric towards police has changed within, at least since I've been born. You know, when I was a kid, everybody looked up to police.
True.
After 9/11, everybody looked up to police.
True.
And now that, you know, the recent events have been happening, police are looked down upon. There's so my own personal story that I have with this is a good friend of mine. He was NHP, Nevada Highway Police, and our patrol. And he was just sitting in his car. And this guy comes up, he gets out to help him, and the guy comes up and freaking just shoots him. Took his uniform and his car.
I want to ask you something. We're gonna get back to what you're talking about. You're not gonna go anywhere, but I want to ask you something. This is just in regards to a comment, because I get this a lot when I'm talking, particularly to MAGA. David White 379 in the comments said, "Capitol Police shot and killed an unarmed veteran. What about that?" He's talking about Ashley Babbitt. What do you think about the killing of this woman?
I think that he should have had to have been in a position where his life was in danger for him to be able to do that. I think the investigation should have been a lot more public. People should have been able to know what was going on. This girl was 4'10" and 110 pounds. She was nothing.
Was she alone?
Why would you shoot the little one? Shoot the big guy.
Well,
oh, heck no. But that's the thing is,
I mean,
was anybody at immediate danger?
Well,
get hurt.
Yes. My response to your answer is yes. You said, was anybody in immediate danger in fear of dying? My answer is yes. And here's what I mean by that. Ashley Babbitt, or better yet, the guy who shot her, I can't think of his name, but the black officer, Capitol officer that shot her, he's behind a glass that they've broken, and they're trying to go through the glass. Behind that officer is a few other folks who are cowering. The officer has his gun out and has his gun extended toward the crowd trying to hold him off. Why would Ashley Babbitt proceed towards a guy with a gun that's aimed at her? Why would she even continue trying to come forward towards that?
My question to that would be, how many rounds are in that magazine?
What? I don't get that.
How many rounds are in that magazine?
Ashley Babbitt does.
On the other side of that door.
Ashley Babbitt does not know how many rounds are in the magazine. She don't know if the gun is loaded at all. I'm asking, why would she proceed forward towards a gun? Huh?
I'm surprised that the firing of the weapon actually didn't escalate things more. To be honest.
Well, there was a lot of police that were behind the folks who was trying to get through that window. That's why. But I'm asking the question in regards to Ashley Babbitt. Why would she proceed at a guy who's aiming a barrel at her? Why would she? Is she not accountable for doing something like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Then she is a justifiable kill. I don't care if you're in a bank that's being robbed.
I never said that she was a threat to his life. None of them had weapons other than sticks and stones. But
if you aim a gun at me, even if you're off your damn rocker, if you aim a gun at me and I'm still willing to charge you while you're aiming a gun, I am a threat to your life. Clearly, I obviously am not taking seriously whatever you're aiming that gun at me for. Why would you charge someone who's aiming a gun at you?
If we're going to do that, then we have to go back and look at all the rest of the crimes that have happened.
Well, there is a window that's been broken. So clearly, even in regards to the folks who was invited and led into the Capitol building, the portion where Ashley Babbitt was at, that area they clearly were not invited to. The area they were trying to go into and get to this guy. At what point do you allow somebody to keep proceeding towards you? These guys are cowering in fear, and she's still proceeding towards them. At what point do you say that there may be a threat here? What do you think the guy should have done? Just stood there and just let her keep coming?
Brother, I have no idea what I would have done in that situation.
I think you probably would have shot her.
I would have been shaking in my boots. I will tell you that right now. But I also will tell you, I have faced a gun before and had to go at that gun. It is terrifying. It is terrifying as hell.
Okay. Well,
there's also a thing called mob mentality is actually a real thing, and once that takes over, it's like a bunch of crazy animals. Like,
well, but you're responsible for that. That's the same thing Black Lives Matter could argue.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, you're responsible for it. What I don't get is how folks could look at that scenario and come back. Thank you, Callie. Appreciate that, Kate. What I don't get is how folks could look at that scenario and suggest that she's not a justifiable killing. Because like what I just asked you, you said his life wasn't in danger. She's coming at him, and I asked you, well, what should he do? Well, I don't really know. And that's what I'm saying is in the fog of war.
Basically, what I'm saying is with the amount of people that were there, if they really wanted to take over completely, they would have.
Okay, but he doesn't know that in the moment.
They should have had the National Guard there ready to go. And that was a failure on both sides' parts.
Okay, we can argue all of that, but we're talking about the individual cop and the individual person that got shot, which is Ashley Babbitt. They don't have.
You can't prove that she was a threat to his life.
You can see it. There's a window that is broken, and she's trying to climb through.
Running at you, yeah, it's scary.
What is he supposed to do? I'm asking you.
When the police were dealing with, all right, in this situation, when the police were dealing with the riots. You know, what are they armed with? Were they armed with tear gas, rubber bullets and stuff like that? Or were they out there freaking mowing down the mob that's coming at them?
Well, in regards to the guy who shot her, I don't know if he knew any of that. All you know is people are charging at you. You got your gun outstretched, and it's not stopping them from charging at you.
No, and that's what I'm just asking. Like, how is that a different mentality than how they had in the Capitol?
Wait.
There were police getting killed out on the street. There was a police officer in Vegas that was shot freaking execution style behind the head during those riots.
Okay, what are you doing? Comparing this to Black Lives Matter? Okay, you're in Vegas now. You're in somewhere else. Are you comparing this to Black Lives Matter or something?
I'm not in Vegas.
No, you said you're bringing up something that happened in Vegas.
Not Black Lives Matters, because Black Lives Matter, though, the movement, I definitely support. But the people that came out at night.
Okay, but
that were out there to cause trouble.
No, I'm asking you this because we're talking about Ashley Babbitt at the Capitol building, and now you're bringing up a cop getting killed in Vegas.
I'm trying to liken the people when you bring in a unit of police with riot shields and everything. When they are prepared, what are they prepared with? They're not prepared with just bullets. They're prepared with other stuff. Now you got this guy that's stuck in a freaking room with a 9mm, and you're telling me that, or maybe a 45 or something, but. You're telling me that that's what was supposed to hold back the massive crowds that we all know Donald Trump brings in.
Okay. Well, what I'm just simply saying from this cop is that we often give the police the benefit of the doubt that their lives are in jeopardy. And when you look at this scenario and you look at what he was faced with, why is it so odd to believe that he may have not mistaken that for a lethal threat? I mean, they've broken the window and they're trying to come through that window, and we're telling him, well, you should have been able to see they're unarmed. You should have been able to see she's only 4'11". You should have been able to make all of these irrational, quick decisions in this chaotic moment. I mean, they were just proceeding toward this guy. They're yelling all kinds of stuff.
They were supposed to be the best of the best up there. These guys are supposed to be trained. Now, what happened after she was shot is my question as well. Like, did everybody just stop? Or did this guy, take on the whole mob by himself? Like, what happened?
Well, fortunately for him,
polite and professional to everyone you meet, but be prepared to someone. Basically, that's what General Mattis said. Right. Sorry, this guy's asking the same question again.
I would say, fortunately, not only were there a lot of officers behind the folks at the window. I would say the window itself probably saved that. My guess is if that window wasn't there that she was trying to climb through and those officers were not behind those folks, once he shot her, he would have probably got mobbed. He would have probably got mobbed and taken out. There was a lot of, but like I said, there's no way to know. In the fog of war, you don't know what's going on. All you know is you got your gun outstretched. You're telling these people to back off, and they're not listening. They're just not listening. So you got to really make a hell of a judgment in a situation like that. And I would say the same thing. I would say the same thing if this was Kyle Rittenhouse. I would say the same thing if this was Black Lives Matter. If I don't care if it's, like I said, I don't care if it's a bank robber. If somebody has a gun and has
I'm not even saying that he was wrong, bud. I'm saying that they should have had a hearing on it. You know, they should have had him judged by, you know, his peers.
I don't even see how you should.
all I got.
Yeah, see, where I disagree is I think from what I've seen, I can't even see. You can give them a hearing on it, but with that type of video evidence in play, where it's clear that this, I mean, that same crowd is yelling that they want to execute the vice president. So, I mean, what are you going to get out of a hearing on it? Just like if Black Lives Matter is going down the street saying that they want to kill cops and they get one cornered and he has to shoot his way out, there is no defending Black Lives Matter at that point. Once you started yelling that you want to execute the vice president, that kind of eradicates any type of defense you have.
Trust me, I'm not about that. I don't think that craziness should have happened.
Yeah, once you do that, once you do something like that, or you break into Nancy Pelosi's office, or you start stealing shit, any assumption of innocence and peace is out the window at that point. The whole crowd, just like with Black Lives Matter, once they started yelling for the killing the cops, or once a few of them start breaking into a Best Buy, the whole movement is tainted as violent. How folks could see that and look at the Capitol protesters and start trying to make peace out of them, to me it makes no sense. They're literally in there suggesting that they are there to execute the vice president. There's no peace to that. There is no peace to that.
I think they both got used for purposes other than what they were meant to be.
Well, I'm just simply using this as an example of that. I'm just saying this because when you say they should have had a hearing on what? The folks are walking through the hall saying they want to execute the vice president, and I shot one of them. He should be a hero. He should be a hero.
He is killed anywhere.
You said what?
By a police officer, there needs to be I said if there's a somebody gets killed in America, an American citizen gets killed anywhere in America, there needs to be a full-on hearing investigation on it. I also think that we need to start focusing on respect in this country. It's one thing that I think we all lack, respect for each other. I've been listening to you. This is my third time on your show. I normally would have scrolled right by you because of your name. But you know what? It was the way that you show respect to people that come in here that with different ideas, and I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that. Like I said, we don't have to agree with everything, and the fact that I can get you to listen because of my name, that's all I'm trying to do, man. I appreciate that. And like I said, you're welcome to come on anytime. I have folks in here with some of the wildest names. One of my viewers that came in here, name was Privileged Whitey. Enjoyed talking to him. Modern Colonizer is another guy that I often enjoy talking to. We do split screen. I get some crazy fuckers in, and I love them all. I love them all. So ain't nothing wrong with that, man. You can come on in here anytime.
I try to mimic you when I do my lives and do that.
Golly.
I try to make sure that whenever somebody comes in with differing opinions and stuff like that, I want to jump all over them. So if anybody wants to come and get in my lives and try to help teach me, I'm down to learn. I am down to listen.
Okay, I'm gonna come check you live by myself. When are you normally on?
I run a program called Protect Our Legacies.
Okay.
It's to save kids and or tell about stories about kids that have been died. It's pretty bad. So I'm kind of sporadically on.
Okay.
I don't really have a time. I should set up something like you. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, come on in. Well, let me get back to the comments, man. And definitely, anytime you're welcome back.
Yes, sir.
All right. You have a good day.
Thanks for talking, sir.
All right. That was a good one. I enjoyed that. I think me and him are a little bit close in our thoughts than Harris was with me. And I definitely got number love for Harris as well. But I think me and him differ a little bit on the Ashley Babbitt thing. And I've said this before. I don't understand how folks can clearly see how tainted the Black Lives Matter movements are, because they often compare it to how you can clearly see the dirt there when a few people start rioting and looting, but you don't see the dirt in the January 6th movement, even though people there were clearly rioting and looting. They were stealing shit, breaking in offices. How could you see it on one side and go so blind on the other side, other than, well, I just happen to agree with one side and I disagree with the other. But there's a lot of comparisons there. And like I said, folks try to make the comparison, and then when you show them how it actually is comparable, you lose them because you're not comparing it in the way they would like. No, he was pretty leaning right, says CCF. Yeah, he leans right. Most of my audience, let's make no secret about it, most of my audience leans right. Being a liberal, that is who I prefer talking to, which is why I always throw up the hat and say my preferred audience. I prefer talking to right wingers. I welcome liberals in here. Callie, you've been showing some love this afternoon. Appreciate that. I prefer talking to right wingers because I like to get the dialogue back and forth. I don't like the echo chamber, which is just simply talking to left wingers all the time. I mean, I could sit there and fucking watch Al Sharpton all day, but I like hearing folks who have a different opinion. Are you a Democrat? Says 11 Hot Wheels 1. Yeah, I lean left. I lean left on some social issues, but I can see the flaws of the left. I'm not a sheep. I consider myself an educated constituent, so I can see areas whereas, for instance, I make it clear I think Trump was running the country economically better than Biden, even though I lean left. I don't agree with all of Trump's policies, say, for instance. I certainly don't agree with all of George Bush's policies, but I can see where things were going better in certain areas under Trump. I can see the flaws of both, which is why I watch you. Oh, appreciate that. That came from Ashley. That's a good comment. I like that. Ashley, the Lion. So we've talked. Yes, definitely. Sharp is an ill-informed person. Ernest C., I'll say this in regards to Al Sharpton. It's not uncommon to hear folks, his detractors, who say he's a racist, he's an opportunist. I definitely agree he's an opportunist. In regards to the racist part, is Al Sharpton a racist? Probably. But I view it differently than you guys in regards to Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton being a racist. Here's my spiel on that. My own grandfather fought in World War II. He died in 1999 at the age of 80. He died in 99 still hating the Japanese because that's who he was fighting against all the time. You take Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson and you go, well, you're a racist now. When you think about these two guys, however you want to call them, racist, opportunists, or whatever, both of those guys, Sharpton and Jackson, both have probably received over 1 million death threats independently. Each of them have probably received over 1 million death threats in their lifetime. My point is they have seen by far the worst of Caucasians than any of us. They've eulogized all sorts of racist killings. Jesse Jackson was standing next to Martin Luther King when he was shot and killed. If these two gentlemen are racist, not defending racism, but I will say, I would chalk theirs up to PTSD. They have literally seen the worst the white race has to offer. They've seen Klan in action. They've been to lynchings. If you hate Black Lives Matter from the shit you've seen on TV, you should absolutely understand them having an issue with white people because they've actually been in it over and over and over and over and over again. Not defending any of this shit. I'm just explaining it to you. If you went through what they've went through, how many times have both of those guys been wrongfully locked up, constitutional rights violated? Literally hundreds of times. Not that they don't put themselves in those situations, because you show up to a civil rights protest, certainly in the 50s and 60s when they started doing it, yeah, that was par for the course. But if you don't understand, you would expect them to go through all of this and just totally be normal by this point. I can't imagine anybody going through what those guys went through and not being racist. That's all I'm gonna say on that. It would be no different than if you came home from fighting Iraqi soldiers in Fallujah or Kabul in Afghanistan somewhere, and you spent a large portion of your life not liking Iraqis. You've seen the worst of the worst. People were trying to kill these guys. So my guess is, yeah, some of it stuck with them. They probably have PTSD. They've seen a ridiculous amount of racism. And I can't even imagine how much racism those guys have seen. And Ernest C. says, still doesn't make it right. No, like I said, I'm not defending it. I'm explaining it. Imagine folks who were walking around Manhattan on September 11th. Could you not imagine that some of those folks have a permanent hatred for Muslims? I mean, seriously, look what they went through for that one day. What Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson went through wasn't one day. It's literally most of their adult lives. I mean, you would understand this coming from any other direction. Like I said, if you hate Black Lives Matter from what you've seen on TV, you don't have to agree with it. You should understand their take on it. Having been at war, I've seen the worst and best of human race. That came from Stevens One Bravo. Appreciate your service. Damn. Yeah, I can't imagine going through that. I cannot imagine going through that. And yeah, if I was somebody like Sharpton or Jackson, I would have probably relocated to a different country. I mean, I cannot imagine how many death threats those guys get. I'm sure they're still getting them, particularly Sharpton because he's still fairly active. Jesse Jackson is not as active as Sharpton, but I'm sure Sharpton's still getting death threats to this day. I worked in Chicago during the great organizer Obama. Angry Patriot. I worked in Chicago during the great organizer Obama. Okay. He left it declining and never looked back. You're saying that you worked in Chicago when Obama was president. Let me say this in regards to Obama, because he often gets criticism for not helping Chicago and not helping African Americans. And I will just say this. He didn't help them specifically a lot while he was president. But I will say this. This is one of those cases where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If Obama had got in office and suddenly started helping black people, he would have been called the most racist president in history. You only give a shit about your own people. If he got in office and started helping out Chicago, he would have been considered biased. There's a lot more cities in this country other than just fucking Chicago. We didn't elect you just to worry about your hometown. That's what would have been said. But because he didn't do it, well, then we'll attack him that way. But I really believe in regards to those comments, he couldn't have won no matter which way he went. They both put themselves in those. Samantha Anderson 358 says they both put themselves in those situations. You're right. You're right about Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. They both put themselves in those situations, fighting for civil rights for African Americans. They did put them. Same thing with Martin Luther King. He put himself in that situation, and look what happened to him. Agree with you 100%. Get an argument there with me. Why did Sharpton march? Oh man, I lost that comment. And Ben Hur said, "Thank God they did." Absolutely, I would not be able to communicate with you guys if it wasn't for Jackson and Sharpton and Martin Luther King. What I'm doing that right now online with you would probably be against the law. Actually, the lioness says exactly. I could never. Big ups to them. Yeah. Civil rights leader says CC area, but at the same time, it was their passion. That's why they stayed on it. And that came from Janet for F50. Well, if you really think about it, and I know I'm not very religious, but I know I got a lot of Christians in my forum. Certainly right-wingers have a huge evangelical base, so you understand religion. If you really think about it, despite how you feel about these men, Martin Luther King, Al Sharpton, and Jesse Jackson are all professed reverends. So they believed what they were doing was a higher calling. They've all said that. And they've done it at great detriment to themselves. But they're doing it under the belief that no matter what happens, God has my back. They all believe that. Life isn't fair, but it takes people with character to make it more right, regardless of the cost. 00777, yeah, I agree. And that cost could ultimately be your life. Obama said citizens were too small-minded. See, David 6060, he talked about citizens clinging to their guns and religion. I could come up with bad quotes by everybody. I mean, I'm not going to say that everything. Obama was a really good speaker, but I'm not going to pretend like he don't have some badass quotes out there. You want your doctor, you can keep your doctor is an outright lie that he told. But I could come up with 1 million of them from Trump too. So they all do that. And of course, Biden, some of his quotes, you can't even spell what they're saying because you don't even understand what he's saying. Dr. King stood up for peace. Gandhi, Malcolm X in his unique way, Muhammad Ali, Hamilton even. Yeah, well, Malcolm X was talking about fighting back. Malcolm X wasn't standing up for peace. Malcolm X was talking about taking arms and demanding peace. He was more of the black version of the black version of Come and Take It or From Our Cold Dead Hands. He just could not get enough gathering because Martin Luther King was promoting doing it peacefully. But yeah, Malcolm X wanted to actually do it by violence, by any means necessary. Flesh Muppet. Does putting themselves in that situation make what happened to them okay? No, it does not. I agree with her comment. She's right. They put themselves in that situation. But I'm sure a lot of folks like her would probably be offended if I looked at a dead cop and said, well, he put himself in that situation. No, it doesn't make it right. No, it doesn't. And like a few folks said in the comments, thank God they did. Thank God that they were willing to go the extra, not mile, but the extra universe to put themselves in an incredibly harmful environment for the sake of everybody. Even after seeing Martin Luther King lose his life. I mean, say what you want about Jesse Jackson. Like I said, he was standing next to Martin Luther King, saw what happened to that man, and continued pressing on after standing next to somebody who got assassinated. If there is ever a reason to say, I'm gonna leave this shit alone, that would have been it. And he has continued for the remainder of his life fighting civil rights issues. He obviously has not gotten it all right. He's got involved in civil rights issues that it was not a civil rights issue at all. He's made a few mistakes, but he's in terms of for the African American community, we have been better off with him than without. I'll just say it that way. I meant it as a positive comment for civil rights. Okay, Samantha, okay, fair enough. You said you meant it as a positive comment for civil rights, yeah. What did I say? BSC appreciate those roses, BSC. Definitely that. Let me see here. Trump created less jobs in his first 3 years than Obama's last 3 years. And then Trump's last year was horrible. Well, you got to throw the pandemic in it for his last year, but I will say that I make no qualms about it. I believe the Obama presidency was a successful presidency. Trump himself told Jesse Waters that Obama did nothing good for this country. I think that's ridiculous. I really think that's ridiculous. But I'm not taking away from the belief that the Trump presidency, in my opinion, minus the tweets and insults, was a successful presidency as well. And I strongly believe if he did not do that shit, he would be serving a second term. I don't believe he would have been impeached twice. I don't think, hell, Michael Cohen would still probably be his lawyer. I mean, just running his mouth was a huge detriment to him. And CC Harry says, Trump for jail, that will never happen. That is a fairy tale. Trump would never go to jail. Trump, DeSantis in 2024. Kelly Kemp, I've made it clear on numerous broadcasts that I think DeSantis would be a great Republican nominee. I think he would be extremely competitive for the Republican Party. I think putting Trump at the top of the ticket would hurt that. Not saying that they couldn't win. Anything's fucking possible, particularly right now with Biden in the economy. But I think that DeSantis / someone else would be better off than Trump / DeSantis. Because there is a reason why Trump lost. A lot of folks did not like what he was doing. And if he runs again, he brings that baggage to the Republican Party again. And not only that, but he's going to really taint and smear it all over DeSantis. If DeSantis wants to run again in 2028, whether they win or lose, if DeSantis ever wants to be at the top of the ticket, once he is on the ticket with Trump, he takes all of Trump's baggage with him. And that he don't need to do that. He is heavily favored in the Republican Party. He's favored without that baggage. Why take it on? I mean, he is literally the second highest, the second most favored Republican there is. I mean, at CPAC, he came in second place behind Trump. It was by like 20 points. Trump trounced him, but he is second place. Just stay in second place. Trump is already going to be in his late 70s in 2024. Let Trump run with somebody else. Run in 2028 or whatever the case may be. But I would not, if I was DeSantis, I would stay away from Trump. He is toxic for the DeSantis candidacy. DeSantis says he won't run if Trump runs. That's probably a smart thing. DeSantis is pretty young. He can wait 4 years. Let Trump do whatever he's going to do in 2024. He can only serve one more term. Just let Trump win or lose. Let him have it. Don't get on the ticket with him. You don't have to rush. You're young enough. Run in 2028. DeSantis, Owens, Kelly. You might as well. I think DeSantis would be better off running with Trump than Candace Owens. Candace Owens ain't going nowhere. Hell no. That's funny. DeSantis is fucked now since Disney. Let's see how Disney responds to that. Right now, among the right wing, the decision that DeSantis made in regards to Disney is heavily favored. They're quite happy with him making that decision. I don't know how it would go once he goes up against a Democrat, but I don't think that issue with Disney would have any effect on him at all, making it to the top of the Republican ticket. They're quite happy with that decision. Let's see here. So I don't think there'll be an issue with Candace Owens. AISOU, no. Candace Owens for president. What is she known for? What is she really known for other than holding African Americans accountable for fuck ups? It's just all negative. She's really known for just pointing out the negativities of African Americans and maybe supporting Russia. I mean, what else is she? How does she? What do you see her doing in regards to the economy? You don't even know. I mean, she's only known for holding African Americans accountable for every fucking thing she can think of that we've done wrong since the beginning of time. That's it. So now I need to see a lot more from her before I start talking about him being president. Marvin for, what does that say? Marvin Forever. Fan page. I lean left. I'm a liberal. I lean left. But I can see issues from the left side. I'm willing to point out issues from both sides. But I lean left in most social issues. On most social issues, I lean left. But I'm not sheep left. For instance, I'm not going to pretend like every black person that gets shot by police was innocent. I mean, if you fuck up, I'm going to point it out. But at the same time, I think the cops are fucking up. I believe in being able to point out and hold both sides accountable. But I am a liberal. Disney is horrible, says C. Davis 6060. Like I said, most of the right supports that. Most of the right has the same view you do. Oh, well, that's not, I've never seen that before. Thank you, Don. I've never seen that before. Disney, oh my God. Radio Talk Telegram says Disney supported abusers of children. I don't like this one, mainly because ever since the QAnon folks came on the scene, everything the right doesn't like is an abuser of children. By the time they were done, Tom Hanks and Oprah Winfrey, all of them were in that shit. I just stick to the issues. That's all I'm gonna say. Stick to the issues. Everybody ain't out here abusing children, and they just, I mean, up to and including Biden, Hillary Clinton. I'm surprised they never said it about Obama, but both Biden and Hillary Clinton have been accused of abusing children. They just, everybody they don't like is a child abuser, sexual child abuser. They got involved in politics. Disney did not. I'm a closeted Trump supporter. Why are you in the closet, sneaky link? Why are you in the closet? So you're more of a moderate level. David Cheney, 317, yeah. I'm not far left. I'm not AOC. I'm not Elizabeth Warren. I lean left, no doubt, but I can see a lot of sensible policies coming from the right. I can see a lot of things the right does that also makes the country stronger and better. I can see areas where the left are doing things that I don't think is a good idea for this country. So I can see both sides of it. My folks and I are Dems. Okay, and okay, so your folks are Dems, which makes you support Trump with your class. Look, if you can orate your point, if you can speak your mind with clarity, and make some points in what you're saying, some of your family members should be able to work with you. My family is liberal, and a lot of them don't like that I can speak favorably of what some of the things that Trump did. But I can speak it in a way that a lot of them are starting to say, I can kind of understand. So you're not a centrist. What does that say? Is Brendan? I'm left of center, but I'm real fucking close to center. Stay in the closet with Coach 45. Okay, CC, I see you. You seem more moderate right than liberal. AISO, depends on the social issue you present to me. We just had a huge discussion. I just talked to two of the folks who got on the program, and we talked about holding police accountable. I guarantee you I came across as left on that. Talking about Ashley Babbitt, I'm sure I come across as left on what took place at the Capitol building. There are folks who believe what happened at the Capitol building was peaceful. I don't buy into that at all. So it depends on which social issue you come to me with. And I mean, I strongly believe in supporting police. I strongly believe in obeying the law. I've never been arrested. So it depends on the social issue. I agree with helping out Ukraine, but I disagree with how far we're into it now. And that came from Stevens 1 Bravo. Probably because we don't want to lose. We don't want to send over all of that equipment, all of that help, make all of those statements, and then walk away a loser. It just looks embarrassing. It also would make us look weak to some degree. So we're kind of in it at this point. No, they can't stand him, says Sneaky. Yeah, well, in regards to not being able to stand Trump, Trump has done a lot to earn that. It's not like folks are just hating on him for the sake of hating on him. I know a lot of right-wingers, not my favorite audience, you MAGA folks, believe that, well, they never gave him a chance since day one. Yeah, because you exclude all of the shit he was doing before he got elected president. I mean, you actually agree with the way he was treating Obama, that's fine, but you have to understand Obama has a huge fan base. So if you treat Obama like shit for 3, 4, 5 years straight, claiming he's born somewhere else, and then you get elected president, the folks that liked Obama are going to come after you. And he had a hell of a lot of folks in this country, and that's what happened. Unfortunately, a lot of the folks on the right that support Trump don't understand it. Like, you just can't talk shit to everybody and expect things to run smoothly. Keep in mind, Trump came to power suggesting that he was going to drain the swamp. He was going to hold government agencies accountable. For us voters, that sounds fantastic. If you are a politician or a government agency, he's essentially saying, once they hire me, I'm going to snitch. I'm going to snitch on all of you guys. Well, you're going to have friction. If somebody comes to your job and tells your boss, hire me, and I will hold all of your employees accountable. I'll make sure you know who's fucking up and who's not doing it right. Once he gets hired, he's probably going to have problems out of a whole lot of your coworkers. It's just the way it is. I mean, he's making it clear he's not coming there as their friends. He's coming there, he's coming there to fuck everybody up, and that's what happened. He didn't lose a thing. Space and farmers did well. David White. Space? What do you mean space did well? Are you talking about the Space Force? What are you talking about? Biden criticized the longevity of Afghan war and Trump. When are we done tossing millions to Ukraine? When they win. When they win. I think it could become an ego issue where now that we're in it, we don't want to fund it halfway. We want them to win. So we're probably not going to stop until they're down to the last man or Russia pulls out. He actually polluted the swamp. Ben-Hur 562. I can't say if Trump polluted the swamp or not, but I will certainly say he did not drain it. In fact, I've asked this to several Trump supporters. Who did he drain? The only people he got rid of are the people he brought with him. Hell, even Dr. Fauci is still in place. So, he didn't drain anything. I'm pretty much Republican, but I consider myself independent. I agree with you on some things. And I like that. C. Davis, appreciate that. I like that. And that's all I ask. Not going to ever get 100% agreement. Look weak, so Ukraine is a powerhouse now. Mo Camper, I don't know. Look, like I said, we're in it. We've given a lot of rhetoric, a lot of lip service to the helping the Ukrainians out. So my guess is we're going to ride it out. And let me make it clear this way. Biden's low poll numbers, this is one area where most of the country actually does support him. I understand this audience doesn't, but the vast majority of Americans do support us helping the Ukrainians out. So constituent-wise, he's doing what his constituents want. Then Congress voted in 1916 to intervene. 1917, we declared war on Germany, fully involved by 1918. Let's hope that doesn't repeat itself. Stevens. Bravo. Trump's cabinet was the swampiest. Look at you making new words, Space Dust. Making new words bigly over there. The swampiest. Oh, my God. Trump was actually swamp CEO, and that came from Claire. Oh, my God. This is hit on Trump hard tonight. Clarence said that Ukraine helped us in Afghanistan and Iraq. Why wouldn't we help them? That's a good question. That's a good comeback for that. Wow. That's a good comeback. No, I think Biden should go walk a flight of steps. Walk up the steps. Oh my God, Biden on those 747 steps. My God. Nice mic, bro, says Wise Freedom. Thank you. Appreciate that. Don, I will say we should have shown more strength before it happened, sent the strong message to Putin. What if he didn't listen? I mean, we assumed that under Trump he would have listened, but what if he didn't listen? What are you going to do? If you send and also too, I would ask the question of, what is your definition of a strong message? Because when Trump said the strong message in Syria, it was tomahawks. So what is the strong message? Trump turned the swamp into a cesspool. Damn. God damn. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Go ahead and wrap it up as usual. Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. is when we normally hit. You guys have been chatting. I got hit pretty good today. Harris Jordan came through pretty hard. I want to look up some of the things that also the gentleman after him talked about the misinformation bureau. I'm really curious to see what that is. So definitely going to be looking that up as well. So definitely, folks, if you will, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m., feel free to follow the channel for those who have not. And we will continue this tomorrow. If I can get the thing to work right.